across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Here we go again. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I am your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and it will be my privilege to escort you through 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. That's 0344 499 1000. It's the last of the month, Monday, March the 31st. Here's what's coming up. White saviour racism, outmoded colonial attitudes, misogyny towards women of colour, bullying, mismanagement. But enough of Prince Harry, as he desperately tries to deny that he is guilty of the worst kind of unconscious bias. Why didn't the disastrous Duke realise that white polo-playing billionaires on expensive horses raising money for dirt-poor Africans was a bit of a terrible look? 0344 499 1000. In other news, two-tier Kia's ludicrous international Smash the Gang summit as representatives of 40 countries gathered in London today to drone on about a strategy that has not worked and will continue not to work. Everything Labour has done since Starmer lied his way into power has not only failed to solve the migrant crisis, but made it even worse. This conference was a waste of time, effort and money. After his intelligence-insulting brief speech, Keir split quick so he could rush across town to address a meeting about the toxic masculinity crisis featured in the fictional Netflix drama Adolescence, which isn't really a crisis. But hey, it was on TV, so free gears all over it. Why doesn't he deal with any of our many real-life problems? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, the Sentencing Council looks to have finally bowed to pressure and is poised to suspend its two-tier guidance to give ethnic minorities, foreigners and trans people more lenient treatment in the courts than white British citizens. Good. Now let's disband the Sentencing Council, an unelected quango that should not be abandoning the central principle of blind justice. An unelected quango essentially making policy in a democracy. This has to end, doesn't it? 0344 499 1000. Plus, the 3-year-old toddler, 3 years old, kicked out of nursery school for transphobia. The continuing scourge of police overreach after heavy-handed raids on loving parents who complained about their kid's head teacher, and a Quaker House get-together at which protesters were planning disruptive demonstrations. Not in favour of those, but it's a democracy. Why were 6 decent people at a meeting at a Quaker House swooped upon and arrested by jackbooted coppers? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, the latest egregious example of that Westminster mob ripping off the public after big spending speaker Lindsay Hoyle, Just Stop Hoyle, claimed £250,000 worth of expenses in 2 years of jet-setting luxury travel all across the world. Can we be that surprised that some scrounging backbencher claims and gets £900 for looking after her dog? But that's what has happened. Naturally, no rules were broken. Change the bloody rules then. How much longer are we going to let these entitled people abuse taxpayers' money? And when I say entitled people, I mean members of Parliament. 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, the French system that prevents the public getting what they vote for bans Marine Le Pen from standing for public office, ostensibly for alleged embezzlement. But has she actually been convicted of a far more serious offence over there in Le Francais? Being right-wing. 03444991000. She is the victim of political justice, if you ask me. What do you think? Also, the Birmingham MP campaigning for an important new airport in Kashmir. And finally, David Beckham's latest skirmish, as he is accused of lying to pretend he did not have a passionate extramarital affair. Yes, it's that woman, Rebecca Luce, again, starring in an explosive episode of Australia's 60 Minutes. We'll bring you the latest on that. It's really going viral online. So one hell of a show tonight, all that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday night together. Yeah, it's the 31st of the month, last of the month, and with me for the next 60 sizzling minutes is my fellow Talk presenter and political commentator, Russell Quirk. Welcome, Russ.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Well, lots to get through tonight. I'm going to spare you the hell of Harry, Prince Harry, but pretty hilarious. I mean, we don't take this lightly. It's not funny. It's not a question of humour that the chairman of an important charity that was doing good work in Africa called Centabale, starts saying that, in fact, Harry was presiding over bullying, over colonial racism, over white saviorism, misogynoir, sexism towards black women, etc., etc. That isn't funny, but there is a certain irony in the fact that this Duke of Sussex, or whatever he calls himself these days, old Ginger Nuts, goes to California and starts accusing all of us. You're all guilty of unconscious bias. He basically turned around to us and said, you might not think you're racist, but I have a higher consciousness than you, and I realise that you are. I've realised it about me, and what about you lot, though? You lot. Signalling his own virtue, polishing his halo, and guess what? He is now stands accused of the worst kind of unconscious bias. Why didn't he know, Russell? We've got to get off this in a second. Why didn't he know that a bunch of white billionaires drinking champagne, playing polo on very expensive horses to raise money for dirt poor black Africans was a kind of a bad look, kind of white saviourish, wouldn't you say? Why didn't he know that?
Because Harry and all of those like him don't live in the real world, do they? They're distant, they're arrogant, they're pompous. The mask has slipped and will continue to slip. Yeah. This charity boss, of course, also calls out Meghan as being difficult and controlling and equally bullying. Yeah. But it's kind of what the likes of you and I in this station have known for, well, about 3 or 4 years, I think, isn't it? Yeah. That they are as
hypocrites.
Well, they're also just not very nice people. And I think you can always tell when people aren't very nice and they put on this little act to make it look as though they're all virtuous and lovely and fluffy. We know they're not. They are not very nice individuals. The mask is slipping, yeah, good on them.
And Dr. Sophie Chandorka, who's the chairman of well, they call it Santa Bali, she's Harry's worst nightmare. I mean, she's flat out accusing him of colonial racism, white saviorism, bullying, mismanagement, and he can hardly play the race or the victim card, can he? Because she is a woman of colour, an African of colour. So
wasn't there a video? Do you remember a video that circulated a few days ago on Twitter? I think it was.
What, I mean, of Meghan pushing them around?
Well, yeah. So and her being kind of pushed out the way, and in fairness to her, I mean, in fair play, she pushed her way back into the photo.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Watch this.
Yeah, look at it. We're going to deal with this later on with Kinsey Schofield, but look at that. Talk about awkward.
Well, it's Meghan and Harry taking the credit for what that poor woman has done. Yeah, look, having to do that. Yeah,
that's outrageous. That's outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, because Meghan can spot a camera at about 500 metres.
Yeah, but he can't do anything about it for obvious reasons. He can hardly hit back at her. So she has kicked him exactly where it hurts in his halo polishing, virtue signalling knackers. Simple as that. All right, we'll come back to that later in the show, but I couldn't resist a little chat with Russell about it. Well, let's talk about this Smash the Gang summit that Keir Starmer had the temerity to stage today.
You're talking of grandstanding Muppets.
Unbelievable. Now, we know, I've said it all along, you've said it, everybody who knows anything about the migrant crisis knows that smashing the gangs is purely performative politics. It is the search for headlines. Sounds good, doesn't it? We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis. The thing is, he formed the Border Security Command, his big gang smashing squad, back on July the 5th. That's 9 months ago. How many gangs has he caught? How many gangs has he smashed? Oh, I know. None whatsoever. Absolutely zero. So we know that smashing the gangs is a stupid strategy that does not work. He's been gaslighting us about it for months, and now he's gaslighting the whole world. He's got 40 nations wasting their time coming to London to talk about smashing the gangs. The way to smash the gangs is stop the migrants. If you stop the migrants, the gangs will cease to exist because they've got no customers. It's not rocket science, right, Russell?
Well, and this, as you say, it's performative, it's lip service. This is Keir Starmer grandstanding, trying to be almost the heir to Blair as an international statesperson on the world stage, a bit like he's trying to do with Ukraine and Russia and Gaza, you know, trying to be seen as the person that solves the problem. And the hypocrisy of him addressing 39 to 40 other nations about the importance of border control and the problem of illegal migration when we are now the worst country in the world in terms of our porous borders. So if I was one of those 40 nations heads, I'd be sitting in the audience saying, hang on, this guy is telling us about the importance of protecting our borders, telling us what we all should do, but surely you should be doing that by way of leading, for example. You know, the person that they should talk to, the person they should lean into, the only person at the moment on the political stage that knows how to control borders, and that, I'm afraid, is one Donald J. Trump. He has literally stopped illegal migration overnight. It's taken him about 4 weeks only, and as you say, Keir Starmer is 9 months into this smashing the gangs rhetoric, which even his own chief of the border farce control, whatever it is, Martin Hewitt, on his, I think, first week.
First day.
He said
it won't
this
work.
won't work.
It won't work. And and Martin Hewitt,
and it hasn't.
Former copper, gets 200 grand a year. Let's think about this. He gets 200 grand a year. He said smashing the gangs won't solve the crisis. He's absolutely right. Also, this government has given the Border Security Command £175 million worth of high-tech, state-of-the-art equipment to trace the gangs and then arrest them and then smash them. Hasn't sort of worked because they haven't actually found any people smugglers. Meanwhile, we also learn from the National Crime Agency that the people smuggling gangs are making literally hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds a year. Hundreds of millions of pounds a year. We found out last week that they're doing so well that they're not only selling standard issue tickets across the channel to migrants, illegal foreigners, to be honest with you, for £1,000. They're now offering VIP packages, special legroom upgrades and this kind of stuff. This is ridiculous. Keir Starmer hasn't laid a glove on them, and now the hapless Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, stands up at this conference and said, well, you know, the problem is we're at the mercy of the weather. When the weather's good, they just come across. Well, they wouldn't if you deterred them, if you offered them a deterrent. I don't know, like maybe the Rwanda scheme. Oh, wait a minute, you got rid of that on day one, didn't you, you childish idiots? Well, I mean, also, how about we detain, we deport. When you arrive here illegally, you're arrested. You're not put into a 4-star hotel. You're not given 45 quid a week. You're not given free food for the foreseeable future. You're not given free doctors, free lawyers, free dentists, free bloody everything. How about that? How about we do that? That would start to work, but just this nonsense about I'm smashing the gangs, it just won't work. It hasn't worked. We can see it hasn't worked. What was this waste of time about?
Anyone with an ounce of common sense that knows the bare minimum about this. I mean, of course, all of these things are about supply and demand. So the fact that there's demand to come to this country from, you know, people that have gone from Syria to Turkey to Greece to Italy to, you know, France and to here. The deterrent is one thing in terms of, yes, saying that when you get to the beach at Dover, if you get there, first of all, we won't pick you up, by the way. That should be the first thing. We will not pick you up in the Channel, whether it's the RNLI or anybody else, so you'll have to make your way here. Then, yes, deterrent by way of detention, of course, is obvious. Putting them into... let's use the word, right, and I'll probably get told off for this, but an internment camp. Put them into a camp that holds them on the basis they've illegally entered the country. It is a criminal offence.
Well, like they did in Australia.
Yes. Now the left will say, oh, you can't do that because, and they'll cite the United Nations Treaty of 19 whenever, and they'll cite the ECHR and how that has now been embedded within in UK law by way of the Human Rights Act 1998. We, as a sovereign nation, which we are, thanks to Brexit now, are able to unwind and reintroduce any legislation that we like. So we can decide to come away from the Human Rights Act and the ECHR. That doesn't, by the way,
mean that if we do that.
No, we're not. But that means that there would be no excuse in terms of how these people need to be mollycoddled as soon as they hold the asylum card up, literally as they're walking down the gangplank of one of these boats. But the other thing, apart from deterrent, Kev, of course, is the lack of incentive. The reason they're coming here and not deterred by the fact that there's no deterrent is because of the incentives that we allow.
They don't have a deterrent. They've got enticements.
Well, and around money, NHS, and we've said this so many times, and it is. It can't
I just said
be.
it.
No, but we have for years on this channel been saying, if you withdraw benefits for those asylum seekers, if you don't allow them accommodation, if you don't give them inducement,
like in France,
and education and NHS and so on, but above all, accommodation and money. We saw. I mean, last week the Sun did an expose which you've just referenced in terms of I was tempted to go for the upgrade package, early boarding and a movie on the way over the channel. That, you know, it's clear that the incentive across the world now, the word has gone out. Syria, Afghanistan, India. By the way, a lot of countries where they don't need to have to cite asylum on the basis that there's no war there, and again, something we've rehearsed many, many times. If we remove these incentives and stopped being such a laughing stock and put in deterrent, it would immediately solve the problem. America's done it, Australia's done it. Starmer stood up today, Kev, talking about how angry he is at all these people coming over.
Yeah, I know.
And it's simply not true. It is performative. It is hypocrisy.
It's garbage.
And it's a lie. It's an absolute lie.
It's not, you know, it's just a lie. He hasn't done anything. And do you know what? So he made this pathetic speech, still clinging to this total lie. He knows it's a lie. He knows about smashing the gangs. He knows it's just for headlines. He knows very well. We all do. We can see the track record. 9 months, not a single people smuggler caught, let alone a gang, single gang smashed. So we could see it doesn't work. We've spaffed a load of money on it, but it doesn't work. Anyway, he made a quick speech. That's very important. I can understand why people are so annoyed. I don't think you can, actually. We're so annoyed because you don't show any resolve and you don't do anything about this. That's why we're annoyed. Smashing the gangs isn't doing anything about it. As Russell said, smashing the gangs is offering deterrence, turning the boats round mid-channel, or detain and deport. When they get here, detain them, arrest them, charge them, convict them for breaking our laws, and then kick them out. That's what they did in Australia. Their migrant crisis was solved in about 3 weeks flat, as soon as the message got out. That's what we've got to do. Anyway, he makes this pathetic, useless, pointless headline hunting speech, and then quickly nips out. He's got to leave quick because he's going across town to another meeting to make another speech about the problems arisen or revealed, quotes, revealed by Netflix's fictional drama Adolescence. He seems to think we have a massive problem with kids going online and then coming out of their bedrooms and stabbing little girls to death. because that's what happens in adolescence. We don't have a problem with that. There is no evidence that that is a problem. For example, we have a massive problem with black gang kids stabbing each other to death. We have a lot of problem with that. There's a lot of evidence to prove that that is a scourge that we need to deal with. But will Keir Starmer or anybody address that? Oh, no, that's the wrong kind of colour. You know, we can't demonise young black people. Young white people, yeah, that's all right. Yeah, we can do them. Oh, look, they're all disappearing into their bedrooms. Then they're stabbing young teenage white girls. No, they're not. They're not. And yet he's acting as if this is a massive problem, that he has to leave his stupid Smash the Gang summit, race across town to talk about a TV show. I mean, come on. What about our real life problems? What do you reckon of all this? 03444 991 when we come back, we're going to talk about what may be just a chink of sunlight, maybe a little bit of common sense actually reared its unlikely head today in Britain, as it looks as if we may have escaped the scourge of two-tier sentencing. Find out about that after this break.
She said that she'd bring forward emergency legislation. She hasn't. There's now no chance whatsoever that by the end of today she can stop these new guidelines coming into force. And so from tomorrow morning, 15 hours time, you're going to have people going to court and being dealt with under these two-tier guidelines. That's completely wrong. She utterly failed, and what I want to see is this situation rectified as quickly as possible. But if she took my advice, taken my bill forwards, it would have been fixed long ago.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's talk about two-tier justice. At some point today, Russell, well, until only a couple of hours ago, it looked as if the Sentencing Council, which came up with this ridiculous guidance, Sentencing Council is an unelected quango of 17 people who sit on a panel and come up with ideas about who should get sentenced for what and for how long and what offences warrant what punishments, etc. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, they came up with a brilliant idea that ethnic people, Muslims, gays, trans people, should all get more lenient treatment in the courts than, you know, traditional white British citizens, you know, people who live here, citizens of this country, people like me and Russell and you guys probably. Well, definitely, I'm sure. So special treatment for ethnic people, for ethnic minorities, Muslims, gays. I mean, that was a disgrace. And to be fair, Shabnam Mahmood and Keir Starmer registered their disapproval of this. Shabnam Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, wrote to the Sentencing Councils to say that she didn't like this. Anyway, they turned round imperiously and said, we've seen no reason to change our guidance to judges and to magistrates. Anyway, today they've suddenly seen a reason to change their guidance. So it looks as if we got away with this. It looks as if the Sentencing Council have been pushed into dropping their outrageous two-tier guidance to judges and magistrates, which is a good thing. I'll tell you what Labour were really worried about here, Russell, was that when Shabana Mahmood and Keir Starmer registered their dismay, they were saying this will bring in two-tier justice. So they've always said, no, two-tier justice. Remember Keir Starmer after Southport, outrageous, two-tier, that's not an issue. Yes, it is, mate. It's seriously an issue. So when they complained that this will bring in two-tier justice,
they cemented it.
Had the Sentencing Council gone ahead with it, Labour would have had to admit we've got two-tier justice.
Yes, it would have formalised it.
But somehow, see, I can only imagine that the Sentencing Council, no doubt most of whom earn a nice little bung for sitting on that pointless council, unelected, have been told, right, you go along with what you've been told now by the government or we'll just disband you. So they've obviously buckled. But the point is, how do we get to this? How were we ever, as a nation, in a position where an unelected quango that none of us voted for were about to bring about a profound change in British justice? Surely only the elected representatives of the people should be allowed to bring about such a change.
So this emanates, I think, from the days of Tony Blair, I'm afraid. Most kind of problems, I think, in this country, I suspect, can be traced back to the days and the reign of Mr. Tony Blair from 1997 onwards. I mean, certainly our open-door immigration policy started at about that point, and I think it was Tony Blair that decided to bring in lots and lots of quangos in the late 90s and early 2000s. Why? Because, of course, he wanted to feather the nest of his mates. Not necessarily financially, I'm not suggesting that, but politically. He wanted lots and lots of people on side, people that therefore
it's because he doesn't trust democracy.
Well, yes, I guess.
Socialist and Labour people don't like democracy.
But also probably didn't trust his own party, his own parliamentary party, actually. So he sets this up. So previously to the Sentencing Council, the auspices of sentencing would have been down to, I mean, Parliament indirectly, but directly through the Justice Secretary, who, of course, is an MP, was elected and is accountable to Parliament. So that's where this goes back to. So what's really surprising is that governments since the 1990s, and we have had 14 years of Conservatives that are supposed to be about justice, actually, they should have changed this. They should have taken this responsibility back and given it to elected members that are accountable. But I think you're right. What's happened here, given that the Sentencing Council decided that they were going to water down, actually not one but two different approaches. One was to immigration offences and the other was to pre-sentencing reports by way of ethnic minorities.
Which is everyone.
Yes.
So what they actually decided was a change of approach to every single case that comes before a magistrates or a Crown Court.
If you were
every single case would be changed.
If you were from an ethnic minority, but also...
Well, no, every single case.
Yes, yeah. but the more sinister thing with migration offences, in other words, if you break into the country, because coming here without permission or without documentation is an offence, they sought to reduce the maximum offence for that of 10 years to less than 12 months. Why? Because under 12 months, if you're sentenced to less than 12 months, you can't then be deported. So there is a very, very sinister agenda going on here by way of the Sentencing Council, and I would suggest very humbly that when it comes to everything that's toxic about our civil service and our police force and so on, is reflected in the attitude, the approach and the agenda and the ideology of this Sentencing Council. Unelected, no mandate, yet the tail wagging the dog allows certain things to happen. And let's use an example, because there are many. Hugh Edwards. The reason Hugh Edwards didn't go to prison for being a paedophile was because of the Sentencing Council's guidelines. The reason lots of people don't go to prison and get suspended sentences is because of these 15 individuals, judges, magistrates, police officers. Yeah, 17. The fact
including a member of Shabana Mahmood's staff. Shabana Mahmood, when they first came out with this guidance, she threw her arms up in horror and said, I knew nothing of this. I don't believe that.
No, her representative was in the room and said nothing, apparently.
She knew.
So she knew. She just thought that they'd get away with it. Now there's been an outcry, understandably. They've had to go along with the outcry on the basis of, oh yeah, look at this. This is two-tier justice. So, but my wider point is that we have got this infiltration of unelected people of the left in our organisations at a high level, police, civil service, education, sentencing council, that are effectively, no matter who is elected, no matter who you vote for, these people are actually calling the shots and making these very, very ill-advised, sinister decisions. The sentencing council must be disbanded. Even though they've now reneged and they've backtracked, we've got to get rid of this ridiculous, trumped-up, unelected, unaccountable sentencing council.
Yeah, and a whole load of more quangos. Government by quango is government by people who haven't been elected, as I say. Had tomorrow this would have come in. And it looked for all the world as if it was going to. So we were all sort of geared up just before the show to be furious and just say, blimey, here comes two-tier justice and it's official. But the last moment, the 11th hour, they buckled and changed their minds. So this guidance to judges and magistrates that they should go easier on ethnic minorities, Muslims, trans people, gays, has been rescinded, or it's been suspended. I don't think it'll come back either. But as I say, an organisation like that that's a profound matter of policy.
But they've only given in.
It's a profound matter of policy, and that has to be decided by elected representatives of the people, not people who are just appointed to some shady panel that we know nothing about and we have no access to as to how it goes about its business. So outrage, as Russell said. Do you think now we should just abandon the sentencing council? I don't quite know what it does. It no doubt costs millions of pounds a year, so we'll save a few quid. Trust me, it won't do anything of any use at all. So,
did you remember the bonfire of the quangos? Who was it that said that when he came into office? I think it was David Cameron said there's going to be a bonfire of the quangos. But it wasn't a very big bonfire, David Cameron, was it?
Well, politicians like quangos because, or governments like quangos because they can basically get things done. They can instruct their mates to do what they want to happen without the kind of inconvenience of one of those pesky little House of Commons votes.
Well, they wash their hands of responsibility as well.
They wash their hands of democracy.
Yes, when it goes wrong, they can say, well, it wasn't me, Gov.
I guess so, yeah. But they shouldn't do it in the first place, is what is the point. So should we get rid of the sentencing council? Just for a laugh. 03444991000, just to piss them off. Let's do it.
Take their money away.
03444991000. When we come back, got to be careful about trans people, haven't we? Yeah, definitely. I respect their rights, and if people come down on their rights and give them a hard time, then we should reprimand them. But maybe not if they're 3 years old. A nursery school kid, seems to be some confusion whether or not they're 3 or 4, but they're either 3 years old or 4 years old. Does it matter? Has been kicked out of nursery class, for being transphobic. What kind of adult looks at a 3-year-old and says, that kid's transphobic, you're expelled? What kind of a grown-up, a sentient grown-up, does that to a 3-year-old kid? Welcome to modern Britain, aka North Korea. We'll talk about that next.
On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yes, a toddler. It's kind of a weird the way they've written it. We haven't got the kid's name quite rightly. We can't impose on the privacy of a little kid. But oddly, it says this toddler was either 3 years old or 4 years old. Doesn't really matter. That kid has been kicked out of nursery class after being accused of transphobia. And this child was suspended for, and I quote, abuse against sexual orientation and gender identity. That's data from the Department of Education. So a 3-year-old, 4-year-old kicked out of school. Turns out that this little kid was one of 94 primary school age children, 4 years old, 5 years old, 6, 7, that kind of thing, expelled for similar offences, being transphobic. This included 10 pupils from year 1 and 3 from year 2. That means a maximum age of 7. So we're talking about 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds being expelled from nursery class and primary school for being transphobic, for abusing sexual orientation and gender identity. What kind of a grown-up looks at a 3-year-old kid and says, that kid is getting expelled, that kid is getting suspended, that kid is transphobic? 3 years old. What's happening to this country? How can sentient adults treat a little kid like that? And he or she was only one of them. 94 across the country. And incredibly, Russell, you'll love this. So journalists, as is their wont, of course, approached the Department of Education and said, seems a bit wrong, little kids being told they're transphobic, having that, can you imagine how upset the kids must be, probably not understanding it. You know what kids are like. Yeah. They'll say things. Anyway, this is what the Department of Education came out with in response to a 3-year-old kid being suspended from nursery school for transphobia. I mean, just think of it, folks. It is insane. Anyway, here's the Department of Education response. The Education Secretary, by the way, that's that communist nutcase, Bridget Phillipson, who we should get out of government at the earliest possible opportunity, a dangerous class warrior. Anyway, the Education Secretary has been clear that she expects school leaders to enforce good behaviour, and we are committed to a comprehensive programme of behaviour support for schools. I don't even know what that means. But no, the Education Secretary feels it's wrong to expel 3-year-old kids for transphobia. They justify it. The Education Secretary has been clear that she expects school leaders to enforce good behaviour. It's unbelievable.
In a year recently, there were over 4,000 cases of children taking bladed instruments into schools. I wonder how many of those Bridget Phillipson thinks should be suspended. She probably thinks that they should be let off, on the grounds of, I don't know, it's their right to express themselves using a bit of Sheffield steel. I don't know. Look, a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, whatever they are, they don't have an opinion at that age. This is an age where they still believe in Santa and the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny.
So do I.
Well, yeah. So, it
you tell me they're not true?
It is beyond parody, that this poor child should be traumatised like this, and indeed the parents. Obviously, we don't know who it is, and I suppose, yes, as you say,
no, you can't. I mean, even if we did, we wouldn't.
No, but that makes sense.
Kid doesn't deserve any more sort of public humiliation. He's been public.
But she's
been publicly humiliated.
You talked earlier on about Keir Starmer being performative around.
Oh, he really is.
Yeah, no, he is. He shouts the odds, and what he says and what he does. I've never known a politician actually that is at odds with himself as much as Keir Starmer. But I think this is an example of it too, where you've got educational establishments that are so determined to be right on and woke and to tick the right boxes that they take an opportunity, and I think they probably saw this as an opportunity to say, look what we've done. We're getting rid of transphobia out of our nurseries and primary schools, even though it's ridiculous. I mean, to think that a 3-year-old knows what something that is trans is or not.
Of course they don't.
They don't. Of course they don't. So look, this is worse than despicable, but it does sum up.
But also
where we are.
Yeah, it does sum up where we are, because the Education Secretary, the Education Department, clearly believes that what happened to this poor little 3-year-old was right, was correct. The Education Secretary has been clear that she expects school leaders to enforce good behaviour. So she's actually backing the school leaders who kicked out a 3-year-old from nursery class for being transphobic. The Education Secretary is backing that bizarre behaviour.
The other issue here, I think, when it comes to, remember in the good old days when you and I were at school, back in the 90s.
Long time ago,
back
right?
in the 90s, remember, Kev?
Oh,
and
1890s.
History was factual, geography was factual, French was what it was. Now we've got schools that are teaching opinion, but rather than teaching a thing called critical thinking, which we should be teaching, which is 3-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 15-year-olds, to have a mind of their own, to have an opinion, to actually be able to debate, to argue, that there's maybe more than one right answer, particularly when it comes to such things as ideology, trans ideology. I'm not even sure why schools are getting involved in such things, but if they are, of course they should be advocating and teaching that there are more than one opinion. You can have an opinion that is different to the person next to you or opposite you. We should be teaching that, shouldn't we? Otherwise, we end up with kids coming out of school at 16 or 18 with literally no ability to question what they're told whatsoever. Because whether it's, homosexuality, sex education, trans ideology, we've got schools here telling us what the facts are, even though those facts are completely disputed.
Yeah, what this is brainwashing.
Yes, it's Orwellian.
This is why we have all these judges at the moment, these immigration judges, various other judges, making ridiculous judgments, ridiculous rulings about, this paedophile who just did 6 years for, raping 63 British kids can stay in the country because of his human rights. They're making these judgments because they were brought up in this education system which taught them from the age of 3 to be left-wing, to be liberal, to be kind, to be kind. So they're making these absurd guardian reader decisions about people who are a threat to public safety, paedophiles, sex criminals, drug dealers, violent, gun-toting maniacs, all being allowed to stay by a generation of judges that were brought up in this education system that doesn't, as Russell Quirk rightly says, doesn't put too much emphasis on teaching kids facts, giving them information to make opinions for themselves, but does put one hell of a lot of effort into brainwashing them into being left-wing and liberal and kind.
But it also,
and that's why we got a mess. I was just going to say quickly,
it just also promotes the fact that male rapists can put a wig on and then end up in female prisons. Yeah, I mean it is. It's advocating dangerous ideology.
That's what I'm saying. Because these people grew up in this atmosphere.
What do the biology teachers
they think
say,
if a bloke who's raped 2 women turns around and say, I identify as a woman, these judges think, be kind, let this person be called she throughout the case, and when he is found guilty, put him into a women's jail, whereupon they often go and rape the inmates. It is madness, folks. We have a generation of liberal idiots who've been brainwashed by the same education system that thinks it's perfectly good practice to expel a poor little 3-year-old from a nursery class for being allegedly transphobic. Any system that thinks that's okay is bound to produce idiots like these judges and their ridiculous brainwashed decisions. Your thoughts on that? 0344499 1000. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about sinister police overreach. My God, the cops have had one hell of a weekend arresting people who they shouldn't be arresting. Stay tuned for that.
She said that she'd bring forward emergency legislation. She hasn't. There's now no chance whatsoever that by the end of today she can stop these new guidelines coming into force. And so from tomorrow morning, 15 hours time, you're going to have people going to court and being dealt with under these two-tier guidelines. That's completely wrong. She'd utterly failed, and what I want to see is this situation rectified as quickly as possible. But if she took my advice, taken my bill forwards, it would have been fixed long ago.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about cops. Do you remember, Russell, back on Remembrance Sunday at 9:30 in the morning, poor Alison Phillips, a friend and colleague of mine in the journalistic game, a columnist at the Daily Telegraph, not someone you really want to mess with, as Essex Police found out. Well, Essex Police banged on her door at 9:30 in the morning and said she'd been posting worrisome tweets. That was something she posted about a year ago about a pro-Palestine demonstration. Some old nonsense. Anyway, they soon dropped that case. But they seem to think, the cops now, they have the right to do this all the time, to just sort of arrive heavy-handed on your doorstep and warn you about your behaviour. Well, I don't think they do have the right to do this, and we've got to do something about it. So this is on the back of the fact that over the weekend we learned that the six coppers arrived at the home of a radio producer who works at Times Radio in the same building as his. His name's Maxie Allen. Got a wife, a few kids. One of his kids goes to a school, and him and his wife were in a WhatsApp group, and they were complaining about the head teacher. Private WhatsApp group, parents, why shouldn't they? Well, anyway, the police turned up and arrested them, took them into the police station. Not quite sure why, but they did. Before 5 weeks later, they were charged with malicious communication.
They were held for 12 hours.
Yeah, 12 hours. 12 hours. Nice, loving, middle-class parents had their home ransacked, acted like they were criminals. 6 coppers came round. Meanwhile, at another London venue, I do believe it was, a load of coppers raided a meeting at a Quaker meeting house,
30 police officers.
30 coppers turned up there because there were 6, and they arrested 6 women who were protesters, demonstrating types. They were allegedly plotting to cause a public nuisance to shut down London with a series of climate change in Gaza protests. Well, I say sod them. I don't want them to do that, but it is a democracy. I don't really have a problem with people planning legitimate public protest. The police clearly do. They clearly think they're in sort of Stalinist Russia or something. So they apparently smashed in the door, charged in, arrested 6 people. Absolutely ludicrous. And finally, this one's only just cropped up. This is the case of a couple a guy actually, who complained about a meeting. He complained about a fundraising event that was open only to women. This was in Hebden Bridge in West Yorkshire. A guy called Dave Boardman and his wife Viv, both 67, so pensioners, I guess. 2 officers knocked on their door and told them to stop complaining that this fundraising event was for women only. And worse than that, they told them, because they got in touch with their local council, the coppers told you uncontact them. Don't you dare talk to your councillor about this. The officer said, we don't intend to get into an argument and why you're toing and froing between the 2 of you. The reason why we've come to speak to you is to say, please don't contact the councillor again. She has been told the same, not to contact you about this issue. So what the hell are the police doing here?
Well,
not just here, in all these cases. Why are they going round to a couple of nice parents for being in a WhatsApp group complaining quite legitimately about the head teacher? They can do that if they want.
Yeah.
Why are they raiding a Quaker meeting? And it wasn't Quakers, to be fair, but these are just people arranging silly little demonstrations. They're allowed to.
They'd rented out the Quaker meeting.
Yeah, exactly. And now this couple told, don't you dare contact your counsellor. Well, what do they think they're doing, these coppers?
This is the unintended consequences of bad legislation. So things like the Harassment Act and the Malicious Communications Act, which of course we're told at the time, when they're actually enacted, that these are for our protection. What then happens, going back to our point about half an hour ago, Kev, when it comes to the elite, whether they are the judiciary, whether it's the Crown Prosecution Service, or indeed in this case the police, you get unelected, unaccountable individuals that have their own agendas. So the police, as it clearly is in this case, think, well, you know, because they are of the left and they're woke and they are perhaps rather a little too authoritarian, they use the likes of the Malicious Communications Act to stop anybody having an opinion, including a couple that decide to criticise the recruitment process by way of the head teacher at their school. I hope, actually, that the police officers that are responsible, not the rank and file that were following orders, no doubt, although that's a familiar term from history, isn't it? But the more senior...
They were only obeying orders.
Yes, the more senior police officers that said, send 6 coppers round and arrest these. Well, there's a comparison, I'm just saying.
Orders.
But I hope those senior police officers that directed these 6 police officers to go and arrest Max Allen and his wife, I think that they should be put on on report, I think it is, in the police, and challenged and investigated on the basis of malpractice in public office, because it clearly is that. I can tell you as well, and think about those that are listening to this.
You live in Essex, don't you?
Well, I was going to say, so yeah, Essex does not cover itself in glory exactly.
Well, no, Essex is like kind of ground zero of all this crap.
It is. So when it comes to the police force, police service, when they're hardly a service, are they? But let's just call them the police.
Why do they call
Essex.
themselves a service?
Yeah, so I can tell you, when we revealed this as an exclusive
I want you to be a
last week,
service. I want you to catch bad guys.
Yeah, so we revealed on Talk as an exclusive last week that we had done some investigation into Essex Police. Oh, the irony of us investigating them, to see what they were spending on DEI, and it turns out they have 10 full-time individuals within Essex Police solely focused on woke ideology and inclusion and making sure that...
One of those 95, the diversity lead...
Superintendent on 95,000.
95,000.
Yeah, making sure that the rainbows are in the right place.
They say, Essex Police say that understanding the diversity of the council helps their drive against crime. How? Why?
So the total cost of that with Essex Police, and the reason this is relevant is because the police often will complain about lack of resources, particularly when it comes to the fact that, if you've just had your house burgled or your car broken into, you'll call the police, they will not turn up, they're not interested, they'll simply say, oh, we've got no chance of catching them. However, when it comes to arresting parents for criticising a head teacher, 6 police officers. When it comes to having a meeting about a protest legitimately and peacefully, 30 police officers. I was also...
you were in the city last week.
Well, I was going to say, another quick story. I mean,
23 coppers looking at 2 protesters climbing up the corn exchange.
I kid you not. I'm walking through the city on my way back to my office. There are 2 protesters shimmying up a pillar at the Royal Exchange. And I know you talked about this last week, because I think it was last Monday. And
23 officers looking
I counted 23 City of London police officers standing around doing nothing, gawping. And I thought that they were about to presumably take these individuals down. When I asked the police if that's what they were going to do, they looked at me with horror and just said, no, absolutely not. And they were just literally standing watching. 23 police officers. So the next time the police tell you that they cannot resource your burglary or your assault, or the fact that you just had something stolen, or if you're a shopkeeper and you've just had something nicked out of your shop for the 55th time that day, do not buy it. Do not accept that what the police say in terms of lack of resource is true, because they have the resources to invoke their woke ideology, but not to police properly.
And Alison Pearson, who did nothing wrong, by the way, and the police had to drop the case. I mean, extraordinarily, because, as I say, they picked on the wrong person. Alison Pearson is a formidable lady, great writer, a powerful journalist who speaks her mind. And she basically trampled all over Essex Police. She said, well, what have I done wrong? You prove it. Where's the effect? Bah, bah, bah. She's now suing them for harassment. Despite all of that, they turned around and they issued a statement, I think it was 2 weeks ago, saying they were entirely justified to go round to her house. Yep. No, you idiots. You were not justified to do it. You're not justified to go round to people's houses because they've been in a WhatsApp group discussing the merits of their kid's head teacher. Perfectly valid discussion.
And Kev, you know, the really worrying...
women, there are a bunch of women
the really
planning
worrying
a demonstration.
Thing, you know,
don't worry about it. What's that got to do with the police?
The concerning thing, you know, you label me here as a political commentator, so I will commentate as a political person. The Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner for Essex, who basically runs the budget and oversees the Chief Constable and policy, is a Conservative elected Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner. How on earth does a Conservative let, you know, as an elected member of the Conservative Party, how on earth does he get into a position where he allows this lefty ideology, this pseudo-Marxist, autonomous kind of tyrannical rubbish to prevail in the county of Essex? How on earth does he get elected as a Conservative, I wonder?
The police just seems to be in the hands of total idiots. It really does, who just don't understand. Their job is to preserve our free democracy, not destroy it, which is what they seem to be doing. People must be left alone by the police. No more calling on people's doorsteps.
Just nick baddies.
It's ridiculous. Get the bad guys. Don't worry about the good guys. Russell, excellent hour as always. You'll be back next Monday for more of the same. That was Russell Quirk, my fellow talk presenter and political commentator, as well as, of course, next up we're going to be talking about Lindsay Hoyle and more egregious parliamentary expenses. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Taking your calls in about half an hour. 03444991000. I'd love to hear what you think about the pathetic emptiness of Keir Starmer's Smash the Gangs conference in London today. Smash the Gangs doesn't work. I mean, we know this because he's been trying to smash the gangs for 9 months with a very well-equipped, expensive border security command squad who smashed no gangs. So stop lying to us, Keir. Stop telling us that smashing the gangs is the strategy that will work. The only strategy that will work is stop the migrants. If you stop the migrants, the gangs don't have any customers and are therefore automatically smashed. There you go, Keir. That's how you do it. Let me know what you think about that. 03444991000. Also, a 3-year-old kid getting kicked out of nursery class for transphobia, and the Department of Education saying that was the right thing to do. What kind of a country do you think we're living in now? 03444991000. 3 years old. On these police raids, 6 people turning up at the home of a nice middle-class family. The parents complaining in a private WhatsApp group that they didn't think much of their kid's head teacher. Why shouldn't they do that? What's that got to do with the police? Then a load of cops turning up at a Quaker meeting house to arrest 6 women who were sitting there planning silly little protests. To disrupt London about Gaza and pro-Palestine, climate change, anything else they could think of, all the fashionable Guardian issues. Sod them, who cares about them? But but they've got the right to make those plans and should not be interrupted and arrested by the police. That has got to be wrong. Also, the couple who complained about a woman-only, female-only fundraising event. They were going to bring it up with their councillor, their local councillor. They thought it wasn't right. Anyway, a load of coppers turn up and threaten them and tell them, don't you dare get in touch with the councillor. Don't you do that. You can't do that. That's not your job. Every citizen has a right to get in touch with their local councillor about anything, actually, old Mr. Plod. So, come on, what do you think about all this? This is sinister police overreach. Add that to the fact a 3-year-old kid is getting expelled from nursery class for transphobia, and you have to ask the question, where are we living, folks? Is it Britain? Is it free democratic Britain? Or somehow have we been transported to North Korea? Because somehow or other we seem to have an establishment, we seem to have our authorities who are conspiring against our freedom of expression, freedom of speech. 03444991000. You might want to get in touch also about our next item. Now, regular listeners and viewers will know that for some weeks now I've been waging my Just Stop Hoyle campaign, a campaign to stop Speaker Lindsay Hoyle charging round the world at great expense for reasons that we can't quite work out. He chalked up, as you will know, £250,000 worth of parliamentary expenses, jet-setting around the world in just 2 years, staying at expensive hotels, sometimes 900 quid a night, going out for 300 quid meals, hiring chauffeur-driven limousines for thousands of pounds, flying first and business class, just costing us a fortune, £23,000 to go to the Cayman Islands for 2 or 3 days, and so on and so forth. When he went to Montserrat in the Caribbean, he chartered a private jet. So, we've been saying that this guy's he won't answer any of our questions, of course, and no MP has got the guts to bring this up as an issue, even though it's a national scandal. MPs are terrified of the Speaker because if they get on the wrong side of the Speaker, they don't get called to speak in the House, and thereby their careers disappear without trace, even though nearly all their careers disappear without trace anyway, quite deservedly so. But they're terrified of the Speaker, so nobody has raised what should be a scandalous issue. Now, when we have a Speaker, the man who's in charge of the House of Commons, he is, by the way, he's only an MP. He's an MP for Chorley up in the north. But he gets this fabulous apartments in the House of Commons, in the Westminster Palace, view across the Thames. He spent £7 million having that done up when he moved in. Our money, by the way. Beautiful view. It's supposed to have the best views in London. Plus £36,000 on a portrait of him hanging in the corridors, so on and so on. When we have the Speaker of the House spending our money, taxpayers' money, on such an epic scale, can it be that much of a surprise that we get the Labour MP for Coventry North West, someone called Taiwo Owatemi, claiming £900, 900 quid, nearly 1,000, to cover the cost of keeping her cockapoo dog, her pet dog Bella, at her second home in London. You won't be surprised to hear that, of course, as always with these disgusting cases of ligging, freeloading at our expense, it's always, oh, it's within the rules. Well, change the bloody rules then. It should not be within the rules that she can legitimately charge taxpayers 900 quid to look after her dog. But 900 quid she claimed and 900 quid she got. Dan Jarvis, a Labour minister, says he will now be making representations to IPSA, that's the organisation that sort of looks after MPs' expenses in the House and standards in the House of Commons. Dan Jarvis says he'll be asking them to look at changing the second home dog rule. Well, one would hope, wouldn't one? But I bet you nothing happens. These people never pursue this sort of thing very vigorously because they like their little perks, and their little perks are basically getting money by ripping us off. It's a disgrace. I'm sick of these entitled people living on the public purse. We should all rise up as one and say no more. Let's talk to social and political commentator James Melville. Hi, James.
Evening, Kevin.
Well, on this case, right, Taiwo Owatemi claiming £900 to cover the cost of keeping her cockapoo Bella at her second home in London. You and I have spoken at some length about the massive amounts of money that the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, has ploughed through on alleged fact-finding missions to glamorous places all over the world, entailing him staying in very expensive hotels, going out for very expensive meals, hiring very expensive chauffeur-driven limousines, sometimes even chartering a private jet, so on and so forth. We've spoken of that. When we have a system whereby this guy is allowed to live high on the hog at our expense, I suppose in the end we shouldn't be that surprised if you get a backbencher charging us 900 quid to look after her dog. But these people, her, the rest of the MPs, Lindsay Hoyle, of all people who should have known better, haven't learnt anything from the 2009 MPs' expenses scandal, have they? They've still got their snouts in the trough.
Yeah, the problem's never gone away. It's still there. I mean, I was reading the other day that I think it's £180 million over a 3-year span was spent on MPs' expenses. I mean, some of that you can justify in terms of office costs and rest, but you cannot justify a lot of the other stuff. Like, for instance, we still have this ridiculous thing whereby we're going through a cost of living crisis where energy bills are going through the roof, even though the Labour government said they're going to cut energy bills, but that hasn't happened. One of many lies that they said before the election. But we're still paying through the roof for energy bills, but we're also paying for MP second homes energy bills. I mean, that sort of thing should stop. And then it gets worse, things like cockapoos. Lovely dog, by the way.
Yeah, sure. Nothing wrong with cockapoos. I
Great
like
temperament, but we're paying for it. And so you've got Lindsay Hoyle, who should know better, setting some standards in Parliament, but not standards for himself in terms of ligging around the world, living like some sort of James Bond character, doing fact-finding missions around the world in Parliament, staying in 5-star hotels and hiring private jets. It's ridiculous. And there's many others as well. Now, I think we're at a point, considering what's happening with our politics, whereby we've got the worst politicians at exactly the worst time, and public confidence is on the floor. It doesn't matter whether you're red, you're blue, you're yellow, whatever, in terms of your political beliefs, they're all as bad as each other. And we have Ed Davey today strutting around in a hobby horse. And so we've now got a situation whereby the public have had enough, and therefore we also need a case at some point where I think the UK has its own version of Doge. And first of all, it should be cleaning up the mess in politics through MPs' expenses, second jobs, the second homes expenses are attached with that as well, and also the freebies and donations culture as well. We need root and branch to sort this out, because ultimately, as you said earlier, we're the ones who are paying for it. And during the cost of living crisis, when we're basically struggling to make ends meet with high prices and also the highest tax burden since records began, and yet we're still paying for this sort of nonsense to happen. It's completely unacceptable.
Yeah, and as we discussed before, the frustrating impotence of my Just Stop Hoyle campaign, you know, is just infuriating, because this is something that, look, maybe, I don't really believe it, but Hoyle might have sort of reams of a very good excuse to justify all of his travel. But are we going to hear his excuses? No, because not a single MP will complain about him. Not a single MP will raise this issue. And the fact of the matter is they don't want to upset the Speaker. The Speaker wants to jet around the world. That costs us a load of money. And then you get people like Ms. Owatemi claiming 900 quid to cover the cost of looking after a dog. And there'll be many, many more claims like this still going on in the House of Ill Repute that we call the House of Commons. We need to do something about this, and we need to do something quite fast. But can we get any of our politicians to get behind bringing the House of Commons into line, into order? No, because they want to continue to have their snouts in the trough. They want to continue to fund their lifestyles at our expense. It's a disgrace, and you know, I'm getting more and more annoyed, but what on earth can we do about it if we can't get a single representative of the people to bring this issue up?
That's it. We actually do need one politician to take this on and be sort of the chief campaigner on this, because it is completely unacceptable. So right now we've got a Labour government, I never thought I'd say this, we've got a Labour government that's punishing pensioners, winter fuel allowance removal, and also, incredibly, punishing the disabled, you know, possibly pushing 250,000 disabled into poverty, and also punishing carers with cuts to welfare. So this is going on, whereby they're cutting the finances of the most vulnerable. Austerity on steroids, and yet our politicians are carrying on that they've got this self-entitled way of behaving where they can put through expenses on our expense for five-star living, private jets, five-star hotels, and cockapoos, and many, many other things. It's totally unacceptable. And I think we need to keep on going on this one, Kevin. But what we do need is we need some MP out there to make it their mission to go, right, I'm going to campaign on this over the whole term of the Parliament and beyond. Because ultimately, one of the reasons why politics is on the floor in terms of public confidence is because of all of this stuff. And the juxtaposition is there. Right now, with 4 years of a cost of living crisis, we're now getting a Labour government that's putting austerity against the most vulnerable, and meanwhile spaffing it away in stupid directions like carbon capture machines. But more importantly, it is the diametric opposite contrast between punishing the poor and the vulnerable and that lot in the House of Disrepute or Ill Repute who are carrying on, legging all these expenses on our expense. It has to stop.
Yeah, and you know what would be good? You know, again, we are trapped within waves and cycles of frustrating impotence here, because no one will complain about Lindsay Hoyle, or no one should raise, and somebody should raise that issue. How does he justify all of this? This costs the taxpayer a lot of money. How does he justify it? And also, you've got to think about the mindset of these MPs. I don't know Taiwo Owatemi. I'm sure she's a very fine MP for Coventry North West. But think about her mindset. Wouldn't a decent MP, a representative of the people, say, you know, it's wrong for me to claim 900 quid to look after my dog? I mean, she should have self-censored with this. This is just wrong. You, me, and every taxpayer in Britain shouldn't be paying for Taiwo's dog, and she should realise that, and she should not put this claim in. But they all do, don't they?
But this is making it even worse, because we're facing the highest tax burden since records began. You know, it's all the stealth taxes. We're getting farmers that are being punished with inheritance tax. We're getting the vulnerable that are being targeted with awful austerity policies that really they're going to struggle to avoid slipping into poverty because of that. But there's a mood within the country right now that whether it's the cost of living in terms of essentials like food and fuel and so on, whether it's also the cost of taxation crisis, where the public are getting taxed on absolutely everything through the roof. They're not getting return on that investment either, because our public services are diminishing and our infrastructures are crumbling. And so people are really feeling it. And, you know, we get conversations every single day, Kevin, you know, as we go and speak to any punter out there, they're saying the same things, that nothing's working. We're paying through the roof. People are hanging on. They want to keep their businesses afloat and provide for their kids. But at the moment, it's a struggle to see through it. And yet, on the other side of it, we get that lot in the House of Commons putting through expenses for five-star living, private jets and cockapoos and the rest of it. It's completely unacceptable. And this is why we do need something different. And I don't know where that difference comes from. You know, Labour went in on false advertising saying they were going to clean up the mess in politics and sort out all the corruption and the cronyism and all the stuff that basically we're still complaining about now. Nothing's changed. And in fact, in some ways, it's even worse under the Labour government, because they did this holier-than-thou virtue contrick that they were going to be the great saviours of integrity and clean up the mess, and yet looking at Labour from the freebie scandal onwards, nothing has changed, and in some ways it's got a hell of a lot worse, because I never thought I would say this. That Labour government are punishing the most poor in society, and yet they're doing nothing about the MPs and their sort of self-entitled expenses scandal as well. Yeah, and just as a last point, the MPs are about to earn about, I think it's about £94,000 a year. They are entitled to some expenses. A lot of them have to travel around. That's fair enough. I suppose to an extent they're entitled to a second home wherever they have to live. But their dogs, jet setting around the world, I don't think we need this. As you say, people are struggling in the cost of living crisis, and I don't think they want to see these MPs living on the high on the hog at taxpayers' expense. What do you think, folks? Let me know what you think about this. 0344 499 1000. Should an MP be claiming 900 quid to cover the cost of looking after her dog? 0344 499 1000. Big thanks to James Melville there, social and political commentator. When we come back, we are going to talk about France, where Marine Le Pen, if you like, the sort of Nigel Farage of France, right-winger, anti-immigration, anti-EU, has sensationally been found guilty of embezzling EU funds. Looks like she's going to go to jail and be banned from standing for public office. That's handy, isn't it? I wonder, she's been stitched up? What do you think? 0344 499 1000. We will talk about that after these messages. Stay exactly where you are.
She said that she'd bring forward emergency legislation. She hasn't. There's now no chance whatsoever that by the end of today she can stop these new guidelines coming into force. And so from tomorrow morning, 15 hours time, you're going to have people going to court, and being dealt with under these two-tier guidelines. That's completely wrong. She's utterly failed, and what I want to see is this situation rectified as quickly as possible. But if she took my advice, taken my bill forwards, it would have been fixed long ago.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, listen, let's talk about France, because Marine Le Pen, as I said, I'm sure you're aware of who she is, but in case you're not, she's kind of France's equivalent to Nigel Farage, has now heads up a very strong body of opinion. For millions of French people support her. You know, she's against immigration. She's against the sort of political elite. She doesn't like the EU, wants to leave the EU. That kind of person, really. But guess what? She's just been found guilty of embezzling 2.9 million euros or 2.4 million pounds worth of EU money into her party's, the National Rally, into her party's coffers. The judge accepted there be no personal enrichment on the part of Le Pen, but that this had been going since 2009, so they basically chucked the book at her, and it looks like she got 4 years imprisonment, 2 of which are suspended, and 2 will be served with a ankle bracelet, a kind of electronic tag. She was also fined 100,000 euros, and the point is, disbarred from politics, standing for office for 5 years. That's probably the most important part of this sentence. Sounds like France stitching her up to me. Let's talk to author and The Spectator's French correspondent, Gavin Mortimer, over there in Le Francais. Welcome, Gavin.
Good evening, Kevin.
Has she been stitched up?
It certainly is a bombshell, and very few people were expecting such a severe sentence. As you mentioned in your intro there, Kevin, it wasn't for personal enrichment. It happened many years ago, 2009 to 2016, a system set up by her father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, and it was really using EU money to also subsidise the party in Paris domestically. Important to remember at this time, you mentioned also, Kevin, about drawing parallels to Nigel Farage. Marine Le Pen has also been debanked, and a decade ago it was impossible for her party to get a bank loan. No French bank would touch her. She was beyond the pale, and so she used this system. Now, okay, it was a misuse of funds, but this extraordinarily severe sentence has taken everyone by surprise. And this evening, the Prime Minister, François Bayrou, who himself, this sums up French politics, was acquitted on similar charges last year. Of Marine Le Pen wasn't so lucky. Surprise, surprise. And so really French politics is in turmoil. But I've just been watching an interview with Le Pen, live interview on French TV, and she's come out fighting. And she says it's not just me who's been eliminated, it's 11 million French voters who have been eliminated. And she had a message for them: don't worry, I'm not giving up, I'm not demoralised, I'm outraged.
And I think a lot of people, I mean, I'm feeling pretty outraged about it, because it strikes me that you and I had spoken about this before. France has a kind of political system, a democrat, I use the word democratic loosely, but a democratic system whereby if the French people vote for something that the great and the good, the elitists like Macron don't really like, they have another election a week later in order to make sure that the decision of the people is jettisoned, so you get someone nice and bland and to Macron's liking. Here we have the courts banning a politician from running for public office. In a democracy, that shouldn't be the job of the courts. It should be like America. By all means, she can be convicted of any number of criminal offences, but she should still be able to run for office. The people should be able to make their minds up, as they did in America. But in France, no dice. The courts will ban her. She can't stand for office now for the foreseeable future. So, you know, it does just seem like a complete stitch-up of someone who has a political outlook that the great and the good, the establishment of France, just does not like.
It doesn't, and of course this comes just 2 weeks after Calin Georgescu in Romania was disqualified from standing in the presidential election. You may remember that in November last year he surprisingly won the first round, and then the Constitutional Court suddenly annulled the result of the election, so that there couldn't be. It's just days before the second round, claiming Russian influence. In other words, no evidence that they'd actually interfered, they'd rigged the vote, but just that they'd opened a few TikTok accounts. This is where we've now got to. And of course, it was only a few weeks ago in Munich that J.D. Vance, the American vice president, said to Europe, listen, the greatest danger you face, it's not Russia, it's not China, it's yourselves. There is a nasty, undemocratic streak spreading throughout Europe. And this, I'm afraid, just reinforces what J.D. Vance said. And it's interesting to see that just a couple of hours ago, Elon Musk tweeted about the Le Pen verdict, saying, this is all that the radical left have got left. They're not winning at the ballot box, so they try and suppress the people's voice at the courts. And I'm afraid a growing number of Europeans think exactly the same.
And this young sidekick is Bardella, of Le Pen's, Bardella. I mean, can he carry the mantle on? I mean, if Marine Le Pen is forced out of the picture, I mean, can the movement, National Rally, the party, sort of carry on successfully without her?
That's a good question. He's 29. He'll be 31 at the next presidential election in 2027. Don't forget, Macron was in his 30s when he was elected. So he is young, but he's very popular in France. He's more economically liberal than Marine Le Pen, probably a bit more socially conservative. So I think that if I think such is the depth of outrage, Kevin, at this verdict, and the sense of injustice and the disproportionate sentence, that I think it will galvanise the voters. And it will also, there's a lot of people who might not be natural Le Pen supporters who will look at this and think, I don't like the way that France is going. Last month, incidentally, Kevin, the court took off air a television station, very popular, in tone quite similar to talkTV. It was anti-system, so they just took it off the air. And again, it's troubling what's happening in France at the moment.
And people are aware of that, as you say. People all over the country, regardless of their personal political views, are troubled by what's happened to Marine Le Pen in the courts.
They are, absolutely they are, yeah. And there's even a slight trepidation on Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who I suppose is the Jeremy Corbyn of French politics. He has said today that the people should always be the final judge and not the courts. And because, of course, he'll be thinking, am I next? I'm anti-system. It's not, see, where I would disagree with Elon Musk, Kevin, it's not the radical left doing this, it's what the French call the extreme centre. Now, the extreme centre, obviously, is best embodied by the EU, by Brussels. They are the extreme centre. Ursula von der Leyen, Emmanuel Macron, extreme centre. So these are the people who are now waging this undemocratic war against anyone they consider unprogressive and anti-system.
It's very worrying. Good to talk to you, Gavin, always. Thank you so much for your time. Gavin Mortimer there. He's the Spectator's French correspondent, writes excellent books over there as well. All-round good guy. What do you think? France, wow. There goes democracy. You know, that's one way of doing it. Just send your opponents to jail. Again. Is that France or is that North Korea? What do you reckon? 03444991000. Now, when we come back, I don't know if you've been reading about Birmingham, but basically because of various economic problems and because I believe their refuse operatives, their dustmen and dust ladies, if they've got any, have gone on strike. So the rubbish is up to their necks. There are rats the size of cats running round. And one of their local MPs has taken it upon himself to launch a very important campaign. He's campaigning for a new airport. That is important, you know, airport's good transport. The thing is, the airport that he's campaigning for is in Kashmir. This guy's name is Tahir Ali. He's the guy who recently called for a return of the blasphemy laws. So he's an MP for a Birmingham area, but he's actually the MP for Islam and Kashmir. Do we need this kind of person in our parliament, not even campaigning for British issues? That is culturally worrying, isn't it? 03444991000. We'll talk about that next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, the MP Tahir Ali is the MP for an area in Birmingham. Birmingham's got a lot of problems at the moment, as you may have noticed. It's got financial problems due to dreadful, hopeless, incompetent mismanagement by the Labour Council, the Labour-controlled council, and also the dustmen, the refuse operatives, collectors have gone on strike because they want more pay. They don't like their conditions. So rubbish in Birmingham is neck deep, literally neck deep, and there are rats the size of cats running down. Tahir Ali, who represents Birmingham, Hall Green and Moseley, All he's interested in is a new airport for Kashmir. He tweeted, "This week I attended a press conference ordained by Mohammed Yassin MP where 20 cross-party British parliamentarians were requested for an international airport in Mirpur." You couldn't make this stuff up, could you? There has been a long-standing promise for an international airport in Mirpur, which has yet to be met. This causes significant issues to a number of my constituents who are having to drive over 3 hours to get to the nearest airport in Pakistan. I will continue to push for this cause and pursue this issue until permission is granted for a new airport. What's it got to do with him? He's an MP for Birmingham, Hall Green and Moseley. Robert Jenrick, the Tory Shadow Justice Secretary, quite rightly in my view, tweeted back, "You're an MP for Birmingham, not Mirpur. The streets of your city are literally piled high in rubbish thanks to your Labour council. Focus on the UK." More and more of these MPs, we've got about 7 MPs, I think, who were kind of elected or see themselves as in Parliament to fight the cause of Gaza as opposed to domestic issues. This is kind of worrying. I think it's a waste of parliamentary time when you've got people in there just worried about Gaza and airports in Kashmir. You know, I mean, democratic, if you vote for this kind of person, I suppose there's not much we could do about it. But surely Mr. Ali and his ilk should be told, no, you represent the people of Birmingham, Hall Green and Moseley, not the people of Kashmir. You must campaign on domestic issues. You must try to help them out. Unbelievable. Let's speak to a commentator for the New Culture Forum, Amy Gallagher. Hello, Amy.
Hello, hi.
This is all part of how our culture, we're very worried about the number of migrants coming into this country, hundreds of thousands coming in illegally, millions coming in legally, and they're diluting our traditional culture more and more and more. Up in the north, you have towns that you wouldn't recognise as traditionally British. It's more like, they're in the Middle East or Pakistan or something because they're so Muslim. They're so full of Islam worshippers. So you've got that going on. And now we have more and more MPs who are standing in Westminster and only seem to be interested in Gaza or an airport in Kashmir. Now, Tahir Ali is the MP who a few months back stood up and urged the Prime Minister to bring back the blasphemy laws because he didn't want to see religious texts, sacrilegiously treated. Didn't want to see the Quran burnt. So this guy, he's like the MP for medieval Muslimism and also now for airports in Kashmir. It's kind of worrying that we have a representative of the British people who only seems to be interested in foreign people, not his own constituents.
Yeah, it's extremely worrying. I mean, Birmingham now there are large parts of Birmingham where at least 1 in 3 people are Muslim, where 1 in 5 households there is an adult that can't speak English. We've got lots of social housing going to first-generation immigrants in Birmingham. So, you could argue that Tahir Ali is lobbying for his constituents because a lot of his constituents are also from Pakistan or other countries. They have no loyalty to this country. This is what happens when you have mass immigration at the scale that we've had without any program for integration. The people here who come here, I'd have no allegiance to the country. They're interested only in the country that they came from and their religion and their culture, and ours just gets totally destroyed. As you said, there's been more of these MPs. That we've had MPs, saying that we should be tolerant of cousin marriage and incest, that we shouldn't desecrate the Quran and so on. We've got now 5 independent MPs that are there on a kind of Gaza ticket, pro-Gaza ticket. I suspect in the coming years we will see a Muslim party. At the moment, a lot of these MPs are with Labour, but I think they're just using Labour at the moment. And as soon as there is a different vehicle for them to join, they will do. And it should be said also that it wasn't just Tahir Ali. 20 MPs signed a letter calling for this airport, mostly Labour, and some of them actually voted against the Heathrow expansion in 2018. That's what's so ridiculous, but they're quite happy to have to have an airport in another country. I mean, where are the Green Lobby in all of this? You know, it's okay if carbon emissions come from another country. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Why is the domestic infrastructure of another country got anything to do with Britain?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a joke.
Absolutely. And this guy, Tahir Ali, is representative of a growing number of MPs who don't really see Britain as their constituency or their constituency as their constituency. They're there to fight the cause of Gaza, of Palestinians, of Pakistani people who live here who might have to drive 3 miles to the airport or 3 hours to the airport in Kashmir. I mean, a bigger waste of parliamentary time in Westminster than worrying about whether or not certain areas of Kashmir have got their own airports. I can't imagine. I can't think of a bigger waste of parliamentary time than that, and yet this guy pursues this hot on the heels of saying you've got to bring back the blasphemy laws because we can't have religious texts being treated sacrilegiously. Well, actually, Tahir, this is a Western democracy, and it's very, very important that if we want to treat religious texts sacrilegiously, we are allowed to. It's not against the law. So these guys are dragging us back to some kind of medieval Middle East hellhole, dystopia. It's very, very concerning.
It's so insulting to the British people who have been, you know, up until now very tolerant of people from all different countries and cultures coming here, and we're, you know, too tolerant, I would say, and it doesn't do us any good. These people don't respect. We don't get the respect or the tolerance back. As you said, these MPs are only interested in foreign interests. They're not interested in integrating. They're only interested in the things that they care about, their culture, and unfortunately this is going to continue, and it's going to get worse unless we do something about it. I mean, the claim that he was making was that, you know, some of his constituents, when they go to Pakistan, they have to drive for up to 3 hours to get to an airport. So what?
Yeah, I don't care.
People in this country drive for 3 hours.
It sounds like a real pain in the backside, but let me be brutally honest about it. I couldn't care less.
No, I know. I mean, think of all the problems we have in this country: housing, you know, tax rates, unemployment. Just there's so many issues in this country. And as you said with Birmingham, I think it's now been declared a major incident in Birmingham for the fact that their rubbish is piling high, and there's rats scurrying around, and you know, all of these MPs are just focusing on another country. Not even it's just crazy.
So mad that he actually represents a big borough, a big constituency in the middle of this city that is falling apart at the seams, where rats as big as cats are running around and they're not collecting the rubbish. It's neck deep, and he's going on about an airport in Kashmir. It's hard to believe. Amy, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Amy Gallagher, their commentator from the New Culture Forum. What she said, though, isn't she right? What on earth's going on? We now have British MPs representing constituencies in Britain. Don't seem to give a damn about anything in Britain. They're just worried about an airport in Kashmir. He's worried about bringing back the blasphemy laws so the Quran isn't sacrilegiously treated. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is wrong, isn't it? 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to talk about David Beckham. Now, some time ago, 2004 it was, a certain lady called Rebecca Luce said that he had an affair with her. And she sold her story to the then News of the World newspaper. It doesn't exist anymore. The Beckham said they were going to sue, and it was outrageous. And they never did. Anyway, she's telling her story again, and she's basically calling David Beckham a liar in the fact that he continues to deny that they had an affair. She says, Rebecca Luce says, all I had on my side was the truth. If Luce's story really was the malicious pack of lies that Posh and Beck said it was, did they ever sue? I don't think they did. Why didn't they? They said they were going to. We'll talk to Tom Bauer next. He's written a book about the Becks, Posh and Beck, so he's the guy to talk to. So him next. Stick around.
She said that she'd bring forward emergency legislation. She hasn't. There's now no chance whatsoever that by the end of today she can stop these new guidelines coming into force. And so from tomorrow morning, 15 hours time, you're going to have people going to court and being dealt with under these two-tier guidelines. That's completely wrong. She utterly failed, and what I want to see is this situation rectified as quickly as possible. But if she took my advice, taken my bill forwards, it would have been fixed long ago.
I'd urge anybody to go online and have a read of them. You'll probably be shaking your head as you do, thinking, why are the police not abiding by these in 2025? But one of them was that the police are the public and the public are the police. What that essentially means is the police aren't a special breed of people. They've been drawn from the public to do a job of protecting the public. So as people, let alone police officers, I'm sure they are going to be shaking their heads in disbelief.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
As I said, back in 2004, a sensational story in the News of the World newspaper here in Britain, that Rebecca Luce, who was then a PR lady, had an affair, passionate affair with David Beckham. David Beckham and Posh denied this, said they were going to sue, but they never did. She has now spoken out to the 60 Minutes programme in Australia, standing by her story, saying that basically the Beckhams just lied, that she was up against the strongest, most powerful couple in the media who have all the money in the world and the best PRs and the best lawyers. All I had on my side was the truth. Let's quickly have a look at Rebecca Luce talking to 60 Minutes Australia.
I just kind of felt the way he treated me was very unfair, what he was getting away with, and that two-faced life. And I felt that I know how much his image means to him. I just kind of wanted to make him feel some pain too, I guess. I don't know, it sounds very vindictive to say, but when you're 26 years old, it's how you react to heartache and pain.
Well, standing by, he's been waiting for far too long. I apologise for that. He is columnist and author of a brilliant author of so many brilliant books. But the one in question, which came out recently, which I had the honour of interviewing him about, was The House of Beckham. Warm welcome to Tom Bauer. Thanks for joining us, Tom.
Pleasure.
What's your take on this? So this is 2004. I remember the story very, very well. Really, really sensational. It was hit by an absolute wall of furious denials from the Beckhams, particularly from David, but also from Victoria, who I seem to remember labelled Ms. Luce, Rebecca Luce, a lying cow, and so on and so forth. But Rebecca now has gone on to Australian television and said, look, I told the truth and they didn't. What's your take on that saga back then in 2004?
Well, it was a very, very pivotal moment in the life of the Beckhams, because he had posed as the great family man, the one who's always cuddling up with his children and his wife, and it was all a charade. And he had endless affairs, as I showed in my book. And she knew it, Posh, Victoria. But what was fascinating at the time was that, of course, he thought about divorce, and she refused on two grounds. One is she wouldn't let him have access to the children, but more importantly, she saw the family as the vehicle, the brand, to earn the money, and she was right. So she put up with an enormous amount of humiliation to make sure that they stuck together and could make lots of money from the Beckham brand, and so it's turned out. And in the end, they came to an agreement that he could have other affairs and she wouldn't interfere. But he always turned up and she turned up at the crucial moments to sell more of their wares.
And so Rebecca Luce says, oh, you know, they basically crushed me with their expensive lawyers, their expensive publicists, their entire very expensive machine, if you like, the brand Beckham machine. but she says all I had on my side was the truth. Do you think she was telling the truth?
Absolutely, but don't feel sorry for Rebecca Luce. She earns a huge amount of money from the News of the World and from Sky and other outlets. And I'm sure she was paid as well by 60 Minutes to do the interview. So she's cashed in on it, just as he's cashed in on all his different stories. But, you know, she went into this with her eyes wide open. The point is, I really do feel that she was badly treated, because she told me that Beckham had set her in bed in Madrid in the hotel that he lived in, that she was the first time he'd ever been unfaithful, the first time he'd ever committed adultery. Well, at that very moment, a News of the World journalist was in Australia interviewing another woman who'd had a 2-year affair with Beckham. And the journalist tried to get, for confirmation, the woman to call Beckham and get him to acknowledge her existence. But he had his phone turned off the whole time because he was in bed with Rebecca. So it's all.
He was otherwise engaged. So you, as you just alluded to, Tom, in your book, The House of Beckham, you chronicled a number of affairs. Now, I remember back in the early noughties when Posh and Becks were just enormous, and those of us who worked on newspapers had to deal with their powerful machine on a daily basis. And it was always like, it was quite threatening, you know, don't you dare print, this is utterly not true, and so on and so forth. But we did print the stories invariably, and despite all the legal threats, nothing much happened. Did they threaten you when you were about to publish your book because you're making these allegations against them?
Oh, absolutely. The threats were enormous. Their lawyer kept on calling the publishers and the publishers' bosses, who I think are associated with you too.
I think they might be, yes.
Threatening that they would cause mayhem if the book was published. And I've got to say, the wonderful thing about writing a book for Rupert Murdoch is that he is fearless, and his lawyers are fearless. If they know they have the truth on their side, they publish. And I was well protected by HarperCollins in this book, and the truth was published. I think the one thing which you need to understand, which was very important in terms of the threats, was that Beckhams always threatened newspapers and TV stations that they would deny access to journalists if they published anything which was not in their favor.
Yeah.
And that is really how they controlled the media, because if you put the Beckhams on the front page, or you, as Netflix saw recently, do a series with them, you get a lot of viewers. A lot of people are very curious and interested in the Beckhams. So that was their power and strength. I'm pleased to say that since my book came out, I think there's been a sharp drop in interest in the Beckhams, in the sense that they don't constantly appear in newspapers anymore, because on the whole, I think the book did show, I did show my book, that they were not the wonderful couple that the media hitherto in the Beckham machine had shown. They were a rather trashy, vulgar couple out for money. And he had a very, very good line in avoiding tax whenever he could. And so I do think the glitter has fallen off them since the book came out.
Indeed. And you think that Rebecca... I agree with you about Rebecca Luce, by the way. I mean, she cashed in and made a lot of money out of it, but that doesn't automatically mean that her story isn't true. And in fact, the fact that the Beckhams, although I remember it very much, you can look it up now, they issued a statement saying the News of the World has been given plenty of opportunities to not run this story. We have issued our denials, and since they've chosen to run this story, they will be hearing from our lawyers. You know, legal action will be launched. But guess what? It never was. So just because she made money out of it, it certainly doesn't mean that her story wasn't true. And the fact that there was no legal action against it, I think underlines the truth of it even more.
Well, I think you're right. And I think the more to the point is, it does show what terrible hypocrites the Beckhams are. always posing as the loving family, always posing as the great loyalists for Britain, all the rest of it, which was far from the truth. And the book showed that they were hypocrites, that the whole of the Beckham brand, the family thing, was for making money. Just like Rebecca Luce has done. But I think that she felt genuinely very hurt. She was deeply in love with David Beckham. He said he was in love with her, and she felt betrayed.
Yeah,
And I think that was the reason why, in the end, she went to Max Clifford and then the Muse of the World.
Indeed, indeed. Tom, excellent to talk to you. Great book, by the way, brilliant book. That's Tom Bauer, columnist, author of The House of Beckham. Next up, it is Kinsey Schofield on the man of the moment, Harry. Stay tuned.
I don't know why actually you need a sentencing council, because surely that's what MPs are for. You know, the guidelines should be pretty clear, or the law itself should be pretty clear on how things work. What I think it does show is just how rattled they are about where they stand at this point, the Labour Party and this Labour administration, because there is a very widespread perception now of two-tier justice. They know that that is a big political problem, and now, even though it's all their own fault, they're trying to do something about it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In 25 minutes or so, it's your turn. Get on the phone, 0344 499 1000. You know what we're talking about. We're talking about Keir Starmer's ridiculous Smash the Gangs conference today. We're talking about two-tier justice. We're talking about a 3-year-old kid getting kicked out of nursery class for being transphobic, 3 years old, in Britain, modern Britain. And we're talking about police raids, raiding people, perfectly law-abiding citizens, to warn them about their behaviour. We're talking about MPs who claim 900 quid to look after their dogs at our expense. All of that and so much more. So get on the phone. Let me know what you think about any of these issues or anything else if you like. 0344 499 1000, or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note on the same number, and I promise I will play your message out. Before we get to you, though, it is time to talk about Harry. We need to talk about Harry, don't we? What a week he has had. Without further ado, let's go over to Los Angeles, to the West Coast, to talk to our excellent royal guru, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
I mean, could we have just not made this a three-way with Tom Bauer? Would that not have been a fascinating conversation?
Yeah, now you tell me. You have all the ideas. You should have told me before. Can we get can we get Tom Bauer back, please? No, it's a good idea. It would have been a good idea. Listen, Kinsey, here's the thing I'd like to start off with. Dr. Sophie Chandorka, who is now the chairperson of the Centre Ballet charity, now that Harry and all his mates have left in high dudgeon, she has pointed this out. She wasn't happy with the look of some of the fundraising that was going on, apart from the other issues that she's got with all of this. Now, my question to you is, could Harry not see that a bunch of white billionaires mucking around on expensive horses, playing polo at champagne-soaked, glamorous events to raise money for dirt poor black African children, could Harry not see that that wasn't a very good look, that there was something pretty white saviourish about that? That's what Sophie's fed up about. She said that she felt this was all wrong, and I've got a lot of sympathy for her viewpoint. Why couldn't Harry see that rich white people drinking champagne and playing polo to raise money for dirt poor black African kids was a really, really bad colonial look? Why couldn't he see that?
Because he's so busy pointing the blame at everyone else and trying to highlight the shortcomings of his family. How many episodes was the Netflix series where they basically beat into the viewer's head that the royal family needed to change and evolve, and there was this unconscious bias, and they couldn't even see what was going on, and they needed to wake up and they needed to change? I mean, it's like you said, Prince Harry's been so fixated on calling everyone else out that he doesn't realize that there's been an evolution within his own charity that he needs to recognize and he needs to accept, versus being obsessed with keeping things as they were. You know, Dr. Sophie also said, which I think is incredibly important, if you look at the books, there has been a decline in donations, there's been a decline in interest and participation since Harry and Meghan left the UK, started tearing into the British royal family. People don't want to be associated with it. It's toxic. And she said she tried to bring this up several times, but was shot down. People said that it was just an uncomfortable conversation to have with Prince Harry. Well, wake up. This is the real world. Sometimes you have to have uncomfortable conversations. And I think this is the first time that Prince Harry and Meghan have met an adversary that is willing to fight back, never complain, never explain. They've been dealing with that for the last 5 years, throwing accusations and hateful, basically hateful storylines surrounding the British royal family out into the universe with no pushback. And finally, they've met their match. Dr. Sophie is saying, horse around and find out. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to air the dirty laundry because I have receipts and I'm not backing down. And Senabale doesn't need you because all of the hard work has been done here in South Africa. And we're going to continue to do that.
Yeah, the essence of this dispute, this furious conflict between Harry and the other trustees and Dr. Sophie Chandorka, who's the full-time chair. She's a Zimbabwean lawyer, by the way, so she's actually from Africa. She actually is a woman of colour. So my instinct is she has more of a feeling for the culture of these events, the culture of what's going on here, and she just felt it was wrong that it was rich white people being white saviours towards poor little African people. A lot of people are beginning to wake up to all of this. Over here we have the various charities. The BBC charity Children in Need no longer sends rich white millionaire celebrities to places of poverty in Africa to go, oh, look at these poor little kids. Aren't I wonderful? I'm helping them. I'm a white millionaire. Even the BBC has seen that doesn't look right anymore. Harry, not so much. But Harry is the guy who, as you said, Kinsey, since he went to America, since Megxit, when he ran away with Meghan to Canada, then California, has been lecturing all of us over in Britain, day in, day out, basically saying, well, even if you don't understand, don't realise you're racists, you are, because you suffer from unconscious bias. You have unconscious racism. You have unconscious bias against minorities, against people of colour. Well, I kind of reject that on my part, definitely. I don't think I've got any biases at all. That's not the point, and I reject it on the part of nearly everyone in Britain. But what we've learnt now from this spat, from what's going on now, who has got the worst case of unconscious bias you've ever come across? That would be the Duke of Sussex, a.k.a. Prince Harry. He is steeped in it. You know, this is white saviorism. That's what he's been playing at, isn't it?
I agree. And Baroness Chalker of Wallasey, who served as a trustee for 20 years, or at least almost 20 years, I think, described Dr. Sophie as practically a dictator. And immediately when I heard that, I looked her up. I saw that she was a white woman, and I thought, this is exactly what Meghan Markle describes in her episode of Archetypes titled Upending the Angry Black Woman Myth. Harry needs to tiptoe. He can't have people that are supportive of him calling this woman a dictator, a self-made individual. You know, look at Dr. Sophie's resume, JP Morgan, Facebook, Meta. I mean, this is a woman that has burst her way into so many important rooms through her hard work and through real skill. I mean, Harry brought a knife to a gunfight. This woman is going to outsmart him at every corner, and they need to tiptoe. And I don't think calling her a dictator plays into what she is saying. These people bullied me. They tried to silence me through manipulative tactics. And she says Prince Harry, when she filed, when she reported this and said, I want this to be investigated, Prince Harry himself tried to step in and disrupt that. And that's where the quotes that she says about Prince Harry feeling like he's above the law, I think that's where that quote comes from.
Yeah. And she also, in her initial statement last week, accused Harry. It was about Harry, so let's not beat about the bush. She accused him of racism, misogynoir, new word for all of us, which is misogyny against black women, women of colour, and bullying. And mismanagement of the charity. So she doubled down. So Harry let it be known through his various insider close friend sources, you know, this absolute rubbish, she's a troublemaker and she should have gone, we had to go because she refused to step down and all that. But anyway, Sophie Jandorka came to Britain this weekend and doubled down on everything she said. In fact, she upped the ante when she went on to Sky News here to talk to their excellent host Trevor Phillips. Let's have a little look at some of this.
At some point on Tuesday, Prince Harry authorized the release of a damaging piece of news to the outside world without informing me, or my country directors, or my executive director. And can you imagine what that attack has done for me, on me, and the 540 individuals in the Centre Valley organizations and their family? That is an example of harassment and bullying at scale. And so if the world didn't want to believe that there's such a thing as bullying, this unleashing of the Sussex machine on me and the 540 employees at Centre Valley who received this and have had to defend it.
Harassment and bullying at scale. Interesting phrase. So she's basically accusing the Duke of Sussex of epic bullying, epic harassment, epic misuse of his own power. The Sussex machine. I mean, he was the big I am in that organisation, and Sophie says that basically he organised a huge campaign to get her out. Well, he lost because she dug her heels in, and now, as we are experiencing, she is Harry's worst nightmare. How can he fight back against this woman? She's a woman of colour. You know, what are you going to say? It won't look good, Harry, if you get in a racism row with a woman of colour, because you're about as white as they come, and about as privileged as they come.
That's the truth. And when it came to calling her a dictator, I was frustrated by that statement because she was on the board of Sentabale, Dr. Sophie, for 6 years prior to becoming chairperson. They knew exactly who they were dealing with because they had worked with her before and they've navigated difficult situations with her before. So, you know, for everybody to suddenly turn on her, I agree with Dr. Sophie that where it all went south was when she refused to defend Meghan Markle in the media. She said, I don't have an issue with Meghan Markle, but I'm not an extension of the Sussex PR machine. But what she's explaining to us in the clip you just played is Prince Harry being accused of doing exactly what he accused the royal family of doing, weaponizing the media against his enemy, which in this case is Dr. Sophie. And there is a real difference in the amount of power that both individuals have, which is what Harry and Meghan complained about for years, that the royal family had more power than they did, and so that they felt bullied by the royal family.
And so, in essence, Dr. Sophie was fed up with this white saviorism, and here she is at one of these polo fundraising events where Meghan had turned up unexpectedly. Look, Meghan's sort of pushing her out. Look, poor woman just trying to get a look in. So she was very fed up about this kind of thing, and she was sick and tired, and I think along with a lot of the other 500 people who work for Sentabale, of the way money was raised. She wanted to take the fundraising operation into Africa, to make it an African operation, so we didn't get any more of this sort of white saviorism and, you know, rich people walking around with their polo gear on, drinking champagne and saying, aren't we marvellous, we're raising money for those black people, aren't we wonderful. She didn't want any more of that. She thought it was a bad look, and I agree with her. And this is where the row has come, because Harry wanted to carry on having his polo events, basically because I think he likes playing polo. So she hasn't taken any of this. Now, at one point, and this is where he's such an other world, you know, he doesn't understand the real world. She says that they lost an important venue for a fundraising event because they had it all set up, sponsors, everything, fundraisers, donators, all the people, all turning up, all with their money. And at the very last moment, Harry said, oh, by the way, I'm going to bring a Netflix camera crew along because I'm making a documentary. I'm making a documentary. And Sophie turned around and said, wait a minute, Harry, if you do that, that completely changes the dynamic. Every single sponsor we've got, every single donor is going to want to know what's going on Netflix. The venue...
They have to get consent.
The venue itself said, well, you know, we need to get consent. So he completely put a sort of spoke in the... or a stick in the wheel, in the spokes, and the whole event had to be called off. Because it's all right, I'll bring a film crew, all right.
Nacho came through and found them a different venue. So Nacho came through and found them a different venue, but you're right, due to Harry's desperate commercial pursuits to throw this poor charity that's been respected for nearly 2 decades on a trash reality show that was a commercial flop for Netflix and that critics absolutely destroyed. Harry's going to taint its brand and its name. This is what Dr. Sophie's talking about regarding toxicity, along with Harry and Meghan's negative brand. Harry decided to throw and which surprises me because he didn't even want anything to do with the polo documentary. He's barely in the polo documentary, but he disrupts an entire event that's already been planned. They have to change their plans in Miami, find another venue. Nacho Polo apparently came on board and helped them find that. And then Meghan turns up unexpectedly with Serena Williams, which also disrupts everything because now the choreography on stage is all messed up because Meghan's decided to insert herself on the stage and involve herself in the trophy process. But I do think, you know, Senebale got a U.S. trademark last September in the United States. I imagine that Prince Harry and likely his team that are all just following his every word and cooing over him are encouraging them to operate on 3 different continents, being UK, South Africa, and now the United States. And I think that Dr. Sophie is saying this is too much. What an unnecessary expense for ego. What an unnecessary expense so Prince Harry can play polo in front of the Netflix cameras.
Indeed, and apparently Harry is, in the light of all this, you know, he's feeling like he's being attacked on all sides, has become so paranoid about everybody that he's fallen out with his former close ally, the one friend he had left in the British royal family, Princess Eugenie. Apparently their relationship has soured because, you know, he sort of suspects everyone of betraying him to the public. So that's a bit odd, isn't it?
Well, she was partying with Piers Morgan, so I get it. I absolutely get it.
I'd fall out with her over that. I really would. Yeah, I agree with
Well,
Harry.
you know, now that we're revisiting the 5-year mark when it comes to Megxit, and you can't help but remember Piers Morgan being the first person to step up and say, I think Meghan Markle is being dishonest and I think she has an ulterior motive, and he lost his job over it. But Meghan Markle did everything she could, picking up the phone and forcing that issue. Piers Morgan is going to remain an enemy of Harry and Meghan. And so, yeah, I understand Prince Harry distancing himself from the York sisters because they do party with Piers Morgan. And God love him. I'd party with him. But I understand.
I have too many times. But also a big piece in New York Post, page 6. Key phrase is that Meghan may be cashing in, but she's also selling out. So she really is selling her royal title down the river, isn't she? Just to make money. Once again, misunderstanding what it is to be a member of the British royal family. Cashing in a rather venal and vulgar way. Apparently her lifestyle site, as ever, will in the end impose all of her beige towels and rubbish jams and preserves on us. I'm not sure if they'll make money, but she's still pressing on with all of that. So while he loses his one remaining charity, really, his main charity anyway, he's got less and less to do. She's sort of very busy trying to cash in and make money.
Yeah, I mean, when we have much more time, we can discuss how she's negatively affecting Invictus, and he's got 2 years until the next big games, and so that leaves him to twiddle his thumbs over the next 24 months. I mean, it's a long time to have nothing to do.
Exactly. Just a couple more quick points. One of the things about Senebale that we should all feel sad about is, you know, and it was good for Harry, good for launching it. 2006, it was to help the kids who weren't necessarily suffering from AIDS or HIV, but their parents may have died of it. Some kids actually suffering. So it was helping kids who'd been blighted by the scourge of AIDS, which was a massive problem on the continent of Africa. So it was a good cause, and very much in the spirit of Princess Diana, who did so much to help the victims of AIDS when she was alive. He took a lot of money from his mother's coffers, as it were, to start this charity. And now he's just walked away, as if that money, which was to honour his mother, doesn't matter anymore. So I think he's proved himself to be a bit of a disappointing quitter here.
Well, yeah, I mean, he also quit the British royal family after 18 months of trying to...
I stand corrected, good point.
Yeah, but I would say that I agree with Dr. Sophie that his ultimate objective was to wreak havoc, to come back and return as the savior of the charity.
Indeed. Let's quickly finish. I'm going to on As Ever, which, you know, still chugs on and will eventually, I'm sure, offer for sale beige towels, cutlery, spoons for preserves. She can't sell a raspberry jam or strawberry jam or whatever it is. That has to be called strawberry spread because it hasn't got enough sugar in it, apparently. So more problems there. But anyway, this is what she's posted on Instagram today. I'm so excited to introduce the As Ever collection to you this week. Every item is inspired by the ways I show care to the people in my life, like the lemon ginger tea blend, which is a fuss-free spin on the warm drink I make at home using fresh lemons from the garden. What is she talking about? Listen to this.
All it needs to be is a matchbook, because all this woman does is burn bridges. How you treat people, how you make people feel special, a matchbook that says, as ever, see you never.
Yeah. On the crepe mix that transforms a typical weekend breakfast into a chance to reminisce. Crepes remind me of my time. This is her, Meghan. Crepes remind me of my time backpacking through France as a student, biting into these street-side thin pancakes filled with chocolate, fruit, fresh lemon and powdered sugar, or made savoury with ham and cheese. Listen to this. They truly are a canvas for flavour. They truly are a canvas for flavour. Has anyone ever introduced this woman to the English language? Because she doesn't know how to use it.
She is ridiculous. Did your daddy pay for your backpacking trip, Meghan Markle? The daddy you won't talk to anymore? I think when I see these things pop up, she's just trying to distract from the fact that hell is breaking loose at Sedabale. Prince Harry is being called a racist and a bully. Bully is a term that follows these two around. So I just love watching her play distract, when in reality, no one cares about her freaking crepes.
And remember, it's Meghan Sussex now, not Meghan Markle, all right? Get it right. Get it right. Or no doubt you'll be hearing from her lawyers. Kinsey, fantastic. Tomorrow we're going to be doing your amazing podcast. Recollections may vary, so I look forward to that. But in the meantime, brilliant to talk to you as always. That's the excellent Kinsey Schofield, our royal commentator, over there on the West Coast, not far from Montecito Towers, where the gruesome twosome reside. Your thoughts on that, if you like, 03444991000. But when we come back after these messages, I've got lots of phone calls, I've got lots of messages, I've got WhatsApp voice notes from you as well. So for the rest of the show, it's all down to you. So get on the blower, give me a call, 03444991000. It's good to talk on Talk.
I don't know why actually you need a sentencing council, because surely that's what MPs are for. You know, the guidelines should be pretty clear, or the law itself should be pretty clear on how things work. What I think it does show is just how rattled they are about where they stand at this point, the Labour Party and this Labour administration, because there is a very widespread perception now of two-tier justice. They know that that is a big political problem, and now, even though it's all their own fault, they're trying to do something about it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Deborah T gets, I wind her up with some of the stories we cover. She says, she's in Wakefield, Debbie. She says, I must stop listening to you while I'm at work. I'm flipping fuming. Kia won't do bugger all. Look at the promises last year. Have they done anything sensible? No. Sorry for being a bit shouty, but he makes my blood boil. Me too, Debbie, and you don't have to apologise for being a bit shouty, especially to me. Thank you. Here's one from Dorothy, East Kilbride. Smash the gangs, what a joke. Meanwhile, we the British citizens have to encompass the cost of these immigrants. Absolutely right, Dorothy. He then talks about putting more money in our pockets. The man is an absolute joke who believes we are all stupid. They will ruin our country. Good point, Dorothy. Excellent message. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Philippa in Poole in Dorset. Hi, Philippa. You were a teacher?
I am, yes, qualified teacher, and I've got some real concerns about what's happening with these toddlers being accused of being transphobic.
A 3-year-old. Could be 4. I'm not sure if it's 3 or 4, but either way, I don't think adults should be accusing little kids, 3 years old, 4 years old, of being transphobic.
I'm sorry, but children that age haven't got a clue
of course they haven't.
What being transsexual or, you know, being transphobic is about at all.
Of course not.
And somewhere along the line, members of staff in that nursery have talked to them about that subject, because as a parent of a 3 to 5 year old, I certainly wouldn't be having those kinds of conversations with my children. You know, it's appalling. And as a teacher, when you qualify as a teacher, you have to adhere to a certain number of standards to get your NQT status.
Of course.
And one of those is that we do not indoctrinate our students with our own point of view, whether it be on religion, on politics, on social things, on anything like that. You know, you have to discuss these things with the children and get their point
objectively. And also, exactly. Philippa, let me ask you this. What shocks me about this story is that somehow, somewhere, a group of adults, fully grown, sentient adults, decided to kick out a 3-year-old kid from a nursery class for being transphobic. Where is the common sense in that? You shouldn't do it, but you shouldn't do it for 2 reasons. Well, you shouldn't do it for a load of reasons, but the main 2 are, A, as you quite rightly say, the poor little kid will not have the faintest idea what transphobia is. You know what kids are like. Probably said something that was a bit over the line or whatever. You know what kids are like, you more than most.
Probably said something quite as innocent, like, you know, why is a man wearing a dress?
Exactly right. And the other reason that you shouldn't do this, imagine the poor little kid. Poor little kid must have been traumatised. Why am I being thrown out? What kind of adults can get together and make this kind of decision? What's going wrong here, Philippa?
Well, I actually think that they've probably done the parents and the child a favour by actually kicking them out of that nursery, because then the parents are going to be able to find a nursery that's going to be suitable for their child to be looked after in.
Yeah.
So, you know, that wasn't the right place for that child to be in the first place, and that nursery shouldn't be having those kinds of conversations with the people they're looking after in the first place, the children they're looking after. I think it's absolutely terrible, and this woke business has gone far too far.
Yeah.
You know, yes, we should be able to talk about different subjects to our children, but at the right time, in the right way, and at the right ages.
Yeah, and if you get it wrong, like this nursery class has, what I think teachers are guilty of is brainwashing. They're brainwashing kids around to their way of thinking.
Exactly.
You know, I don't think around the country, Philippa, that many kids are getting, shall we say, an objective viewpoint on climate change. You know, what teachers should be saying is, here's the facts, you make up your own mind. But they're not. They're telling kids, you've got to save the planet, let's save the planet, we're all going to die. You know, this is not objective education. This is a form of brainwashing. Do you see what I mean?
If I'd have brought up anything to do with being transphobic in a classroom of 30 students or wherever I might be, and another member of staff had heard me talking about that, then I would have been sacked on the spot.
Well, somebody should be sat with this kid. Listen, Philippa, I've got to go, but that was a really good call. Thank you for ringing, and please call me again. Philippa in Poole in Dorset, a teacher who just is as shocked as the rest of us that a 3-year-old kid has been expelled, suspended, whatever, kicked out of her nursery class for transphobia. As Philippa just said, the kid won't even know what it means. Unbelievable. Let's go to break now. More of your calls and messages when we come back.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're talking to you. We've got some WhatsApp voice notes. Let's play one, shall we? This is Jack on Smashing the Gangs.
Kev, we are going to smash the gangs. Actually, we're going to use your money, if we find it from somewhere, to smash the gangs. Actually, we're going to send your money to other countries to smash the gangs. Believe me, smash the gangs.
Jack's exactly on the money there. Starmer, all of his plans about smashing the gangs, they always involve us giving millions and millions of pounds to other countries. It's not going to make any difference. Honestly, this Smash the Gangs summit today was the biggest waste of time and money in the history of politics, and that's saying something. Unbelievable. Let's talk to, what show on this station would be complete without a call from a woman who's on Talk More Than I Am. It's Georgina in London. Hi, Georgina.
Good evening, Kevin. I love the shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that you said earlier about the UK being a democracy. Those days are over, Kevin.
Yeah.
They tell us what we can say and what our children can say, what they're allowed to say. They're telling us what we must think. They're telling us how we've got to heat our homes. Yeah. And they tell you what kind of car you've got to drive. This government is making laws in accordance with its own agenda, my love, and not on behalf of the British public. And as far as Keir Starmer achieving results with his 40 leaders from other countries, that's not going to happen. That's about as much chance of happening as achieving anything like he didn't at the Ukraine crisis with all the meetings he had for that. This man is about as much use as a one-legged man at a bottom-kicking party. He's no use at all. Starmer has been dragging his feet about stopping these immigrant invasion and the gangs.
Georgina, his entire smashing the gangs is just ridiculous. It won't make any difference. Won't make any difference at all. But we'll never know whether it'll make any difference at all because Keir Starmer and Calamity Cooper and the gang can't catch anyone. They haven't caught a single people smuggler. They haven't smashed a single people smuggling gang. And if they ever did, they would find out that tomorrow morning there'll be new people smuggling gangs because the demand is still there, because the migrants are still coming. You want to smash the gangs? Stop the migrants. If you stop the migrants, they'll have no customers. The gangs will cease to exist. That's how you smash the gangs, right?
Well, these migrants aren't only fighting age men, they're voting age men. And I think what Starmer's going to do, and I know this is a terrifying thought, but I think he's going to allow as many of these people into this country as he can and do what the Democrats did in the last US election. Take away the requirement to show identification when voting. And then we've got 700,000, that's without the ones we don't know about, coming in each year. We've got 4 years of that. So that is a definite 4 million plus Labour voters at the next election. You know, we can sort this out simply, quickly and painlessly by stopping the incentive for these people coming over, keeping hold of the £500 million a year that we're sending to France and using that money to boost our own border control and getting out of the ECHR. We're not part of the European Union anyway. That's what Brexit was for. We're an independent country, Kevin. So why on earth are we in it anyway? We need a British Bill of Rights so we have, you know, we've got jurisdiction on who stays and who goes in this country. We've got to do it because, honestly, this country's on its knees.
Yeah, Keir Starmer, smash the gangs. What he should be doing is announcing a load of deterrence. My policy would be detain and deport. You arrived here illegally. You can't come in. Your right to asylum is automatically negated because you broke our laws to get here. We detain you, then we deport you. Alternatively, turn the boats around in the middle of the channel. And of course, as you say, Georgina, leave the European Convention on Human Rights because it is causing our judges to make ridiculous decisions. Then I would fire all the immigration tribunal judges. We need a whole new broom there, a whole new set of judges who are going to make sensible decisions as opposed to the mad decisions these people are reading now, these left-wing judges who are allowing, for example, jailed paedophiles to stay here because of their human rights. Unbelievable. But we've got to do all those things, but he isn't doing any of them he's just going to smash the gangs. It's absolute rubbish, and it isn't going to work. Georgina, great call as always. I was going to say call me again, but I know you will. It's always good to talk to you. Georgina in London. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to Jonathan. He's a new caller in Mansfield. Stay where you are, Jonathan. With you in a minute.
Why actually you need a sentencing council, because surely that's what MPs are for. You know, the guidelines should be pretty clear, or the law itself should be pretty clear on how things work. What I think it does show is just how rattled they are about where they stand at this point, the Labour Party and this Labour administration. Because there is a very widespread perception now of two-tier justice. They know that that is a big political problem. And now, even though it's all their own fault, they're trying to do something about it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is from Andy in Essex. He says, so we have an invasion underway. Thousands of illegals pouring in. A war in Europe. Huge tariffs from the USA. And this Starmer chump has time to watch Netflix. It's true. Next, we'll be giving MPs even more expenses in order that they can feed their dogs. Exactly. Surely that would never happen. Oh, wait a minute. It has. Andy finishes by saying devastated at the way that our nation is heading down the gurgler all the way. Hard to disagree with that. I'm afraid it does seem like we're heading down the gurgler because we have a Prime Minister and a government that just doesn't seem to understand the problems surrounding it and its way, for example, of tackling the migrant crisis. It's to just lie. Just tell us nonsense about smashing the gangs. It's just headline hitting. They know that's not going to work. So performative politics, not really trying to solve problems. So Andy is right, down the gurgler all the way. Back to the WhatsApp voice notes. Here's Tristan on trans kids.
It's the education system's obligation to educate, not indoctrinate. And these people who have done what they have done to these young children should be sacked. There should be no debate about it for me. And there is a lot of wrongdoing going on in the education system. Really upsets me to hear and see.
Tristan is exactly right. We should educate, not indoctrinate. And that's what we're doing right now. We're brainwashing these kids. Teachers are brainwashing. Like I said earlier, you go around the schools of Britain, you see if you can find out just how objective the lessons that these kids are getting on, shall we say, climate change. There won't be any teachers saying, well, you know, might be happening, might not be happening, you should look into it. There's evidence that it, you know, it's nothing to worry about. There's also evidence that there's a lot to worry about. No. They're all out sort of like doing climate change projects, being told, you know, they've got to save the planet. You know, they're no questioning climate change is terrible. I'm just putting it up as an example of where I think kids are not getting educated, they're getting indoctrinated into the worldview of left-wing teachers. It's as simple as that. Here's Daz on MP's expenses.
Yes, they're all scared of long-haul oil, but at the 650 dross, they can't complain about it because they're all doing it, Kev. Because old long-haul would just turn around and go, well, hang on, you claimed for your new bathroom suite last week. How does that work? They've all got the snouts in the trough. Good grief. But keep it up, mate. But I think you're fighting a losing battle.
Well, I do fear that we're all fighting a losing battle, but that doesn't mean to say we should give up the fight. We ain't going down easily. We're going to fight this Labour government for all we are worth, because they are really badly mismanaging this country. But let's not let them, folks. Let's go to Mansfield. As I said, Jonathan has been waiting a fair time. He's a new caller. Welcome to the show, Jonathan. What would you like to say? You want to talk about France?
Yeah, Kev, I can't believe this. We've got to understand now that it's basically what they were trying to do to Trump. They've done.
It's exactly what it is. Lawfare. Yeah.
Oh, they've done it to him, and they tried to do it to, you know, and it's all kicked off, and now she's silenced.
Yeah. The thing is, Jonathan. Yeah, the thing is, Jonathan. In America, when Trump was the victim of Democrat lawfare, I mean, they, if I can use this phrase, they trumped up a lot of cases against him, and of course he ended up with a felony conviction, 34 counts.
Kev, are you AI?
Am I AI? No, I'm not AI. The point is, though, he got done, right? He got nicked. He shouldn't have been, in my view, but he was. And then he stood for president. He let the American people decide. So the American system may have, in my view, in a corrupt way convicted him, but at least their democratic system said, well, look, here's this guy, Donald Trump. He's been convicted. He's a convicted felon, but you can vote for him if you want. And guess what? They all did. And he's now the president. In France, Marine Le Pen, no such opportunity for the French people. The legal system, the lawfare system has decided she can't stand for public office for 5 years. So she's been screwed by corrupt legality, if you ask me.
Yeah, but listen, what we've got to do now, we have all these people on the television talking to you and talking to all your people behind the scenes and whatever. It's all right talking about it. We know what's happening. Let's start something in motion where we need to speak to the king to get these people out of power, because by the time 4 years...
You realise the king can't do anything about it?
Well, listen, I'm only...
No, you do realise, Jonathan, the king is powerless to do anything about it.
Listen...
He's just a figurehead.
Nobody's going to get in 4 years' time.
Yeah, but there's no point in invoking the king. He can't do anything.
Well, I've been told or watched something on the television. If somebody goes to the king, Kev,
it's not going to work, Jonathan. You can say this stuff, but it's pointless. You can't go to the king and say, "Hey, Charlie, can you get rid of the government? We don't like them much." It doesn't really work like that.
Why are you on the television and everybody else speaking about it if it's never going to happen?
Because I'm right.
Well, I know you're right, mate.
Yeah, so look, I sympathise with your viewpoint. I'm furious with the government. I think they're liars. I think they're corrupt. I think they are ruining the country. But the idea, let's go to the king and say, can you get rid of them? I mean, you can say it if you like, but it's never going to happen.
Well, why are we bothering with this television programme then?
Well, no, but you do understand the king doesn't have the power to get rid of the elected government.
Why are we talking about it?
Because you phoned up and you brought the subject up.
No, but I'm just saying to you now, you're like me. I've never seen you more red-faced than ever.
You're furious than ever.
Well, yeah, red-faced. I've never seen, on the television, I've never seen you as red-faced as you are, because I know you're passionate.
Yeah.
So why are we bothering even having this station talking about it if nobody?
Look, I'm all for, if you can come up with a good method, Jonathan, of getting rid of this government, count me in. But going to the king isn't going to work.
Is he still alive?
Huh? No, it's just not going to work. It doesn't work.
Well, what are we going to do then, Kev?
Well, I don't know, but the king is powerless to do anything. You understand that?
I'm going to put something down to you here now.
Go on. Go on.
What are we going to do to get rid of him?
No, you'll have to wait till the next election.
Talking about it.
You'll have to wait till the next election.
Well, it'll be finished.
Yeah, well, that's as may be. That's as may be. But in a democracy, you've got to wait for the next election, Jonathan. You've got to wait for the... Yeah, you do.
All the migrants are going to vote for Labour.
Well, no, because they won't have time to make them all citizens. Honestly, Jonathan, you're living in a fantasy world. It's good. I appreciate you. I'm on the same side as you, but these plans aren't going to work. You've got to come up with something better than let's get the king to get rid of the government. You really do. Jonathan, interesting call. Good call. Call me again. Jonathan, you caller there from Mansfield. The king's not going to work. Forget all that. Honestly, the number of people say, let's get the king to get rid of the government. What's the point? Of course he can't get rid of the government. He hasn't got any power. This is a democracy, not a monarchy, or not a monarchy that rules the country. Democracy rules this country. And I'm afraid we're stuck with Keir and the gang until such time as Mr. Starmer decides to call an election. Good, isn't it? Anyway, everybody voted for them, so I did tell them. I told you, don't vote for this lot. So did Mike Graham, so did Julie Hallibrook. We all told you, don't vote. You didn't listen to us. Now you're stuck with them. We all are. But if you can come up with any good way of getting rid of them, I'm all ears. But going to the king, forget about it. Last call, Grace in Ealing. Hello, Grace. You want to talk about Meghan Markle?
Well, I'm just amused by the irony of someone complaining about corruption in France and saying the solution is to get a monarch involved.
It didn't end well in France, did it?
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I'm not really a royalist particularly, but I think they can do some useful things. But when Meghan was joining the royal family, I thought she has been an advocate for an organisation called World Vision, which does really amazing things to help some of the very most disadvantaged people. So I thought at last there'll be someone raising the profile of some of the world's most disadvantaged people who are often overlooked. I mean, we rightly here complain about long NHS waiting lists and stretched public health. There are people in our world who've got so much less than that. So I thought it's great that there'll be someone in the royal family making a noise about these issues. And a few years down the line, she seems more interested in advertising herself, which I just find to be a shame because I thought it was going to be a really positive...
She's a disappointment, isn't she? I'm afraid that Meghan Markle, there's no other way of putting it, she's just a narcissist. The only thing she seems to be interested in is her own welfare. She only talks about others' welfare insofar as it sort of signals her virtue and in her mind makes us all think better of her. But it's not really working out because she just doesn't seem like a very very nice person. You're right, though, Grace. She's been a disappointment.
Well, I'd love it if we could hear more about some of. I mean, this charity has clearly got all kinds of issues going on. But however, there can be really exciting things done by organisations like this. And so rather than letting various celebrities get all of our attention, I think we, the public, should hear more about the fantastic work that organisations can do. I don't work for any of these organisations, but I just think actually, you know, that the common people around the world need more attention rather than always deferring to what celebrities are doing and cooking.
So right, Grace.
Let's hear more about these people who are, you know, who we can help and who we can uplift.
Couldn't agree more. Grace, great call. Thanks very much. Call me again. Grace in Ealing. Petri Huskin is in the studio. Hi, Petri. Look, I woke her up there.
You did. I was busy writing notes, actually. What?
What's going on? What's on your show?
Right. Well, coming up at just after